Good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, good evening, everyone. For those of you that are here, for those of you that are at home, thanks for joining us, and thanks for the commitment that you're making for your, not only for yourselves, but your neighborhood, your family. Being a part of CERT is becoming part of a countywide family. Right now, we have 592 CERT members in James City County. Of those 592, 281 are what we call active CERT members, and those are the folks that come to the trainings, auxiliary trainings that we offer during the year. We're going to start doing some Zoom stuff. We experimented with that last month. We're going to continue to do that. My name is Mike Powers. I'm the gentleman that's been sending you all the emails. I'm the CERT coordinator for James City County. With me tonight is Judith Davis, one of our lead instructors. In the back of the room is Herb Sefton. Herb is also one of our instructors, and Herb is also the coordinator of our CART program, which is the Citizens Animal Rescue Team. So not only do we provide for the general population, but we have a separate arm of CERT that deals with pets and sheltering pets and taking care of them in a time of disaster. So if you're interested in pet sheltering and working that kind of job with us, Herb's the man to see. We'll get all the information you want. In front of you, you should have your CERT manual. That's yours to keep. The front portion is your guide and your handbook. And we'll go through some of that during class. We'll make reference to that, especially when we get towards the end of class, and we'll go through it pretty heavily. Feel free to follow along. We also have a couple of other guest instructors that are going to be coming in maybe next week. Kenny Lamb from the Fire Marshal's office will be helping us with the fire prevention and fire safety. Alan McDowell from the police department, who's a terrorism specialist, will be here to help us do the terrorist portion. Peter Brown, who is a retired MS captain from James City County, will be here to help us do the MedOps 1 and MedOps 2. And as a bonus with MedOps, in this course, we have integrated the Stop the Bleed program. Has anybody heard of that? Has anybody taken Stop the Bleed? You're trained? Cool. You can help us out. Peter Brown is also come on in. Peter Brown is also an instructor, and we have our own kits and our own equipment. So as a bonus, you'll be getting the Stop the Bleed along with the certification. If you have any questions during the class, please don't hesitate to ask. This is a very informal presentation. We've got you for at least 9 sessions. We throw in a bonus section toward the end of the class. Before we do the practical exam, we bring everybody together. If anybody wants to talk about anything that you might be missing, that you want a refresher on, we do that on Friday night. It's not on your schedule, but we will talk about that as it gets closer to that Friday evening. In the email I sent you about clothing and shoes, next week we're going to be outside, second half of the class, and we're going to be working with fire extinguishers. So we ask that you wear a good sturdy pair of shoes.
We're going to go over the PPE.
Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
We are.
And I won't discuss that. In the case of an emergency in the building, I can do that. You know where the exits are. The fastest way out is.
You're stealing all my thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to do it?
No, go right ahead.
Oh, okay.
First, why don't we ask them? What's
Yes.
the quickest way out of the building? Can you tell me the quickest way out of the building? Is that the only way out of the building? No. What if you can't get out the main doors and you have to get out? If you have to evacuate the building? That's the closest way, yes. But if you go out that door in the back, you should always know where your exits are. And you take either direction, you will find another exit door. It may cost you a few seconds to get there. So if you can use this one, use this one. Why might we have to evacuate the building? Fire would be a good reason that we might have to, and there could be other reasons. Now, if we do have to evacuate the building for any reason, we need to keep tabs on you. I need to know that all of you are out. So here's the deal, whichever door you go out. That's the parking lot where you started out, probably you parked tonight, right? Okay, at the end of that parking lot is a set of dumpsters. We are gonna exit the building and meet at that set of dumpsters. No matter if you go that way or this way, that's where we're gonna meet. And I need to make certain that every one of you has made it out, because if you're not there, that means the firefighters have to come in and find you if there's a fire. Now, the fire station is right over there. Don't go there. They don't want us there. They'll be coming here, getting ready to do whatever they need to do with the fire. So, where are we gonna meet? At the dumpsters, okay. There's a reason we do boundaries in elementary school, to make sure you get out. Okay, that's the most important thing. Second, can anything else ever happen to us in this county? Have we ever had any other disasters in this county? Yeah, from time to time, right? Now and then. What if we were in, this is a stormy night, what if, warning? We could, and we will know right away. With the radios that we have, we will know right away. What do you need to do if we get a tornado warning in this building? Oh, they're in the basement. There isn't a basement. Okay, where would you normally go? I'm sorry?
Safest inside area.
Yes, exactly. So with,
Surrounded by four walls.
if you can, yes, if you can, in this building, the safest places to be, you can walk around later when you have a chance, is in this corridor and this corridor. You are removed by a whole layer of offices from the outside walls if you do that. And you're removed from outside windows, even more importantly, if you do that. We used to have signs up there, but they painted the building, tornado assembly area here and here. Now, usually I get to give a lecture right now because someone always says, we should go to the bathrooms. Nobody's gonna say that? I'll tell you anyway. Why shouldn't we go to the bathrooms? Any ideas at all? Okay, what's in the bathroom other than the facilities? Mirrors, glass. In a wind event, you know what happens to that glass or can happen to that glass? It can become projectiles. It can become shrapnel. And that's someplace you don't really want to be in that case. This is the first time that it won't be the last that we talk about a concept called situational awareness. Why am I telling you how to get out of the building? Why am I telling you where to go if there's a tornado? Because any place you go, you need to be aware of what's around you for your own safety. There are folks who would say that's paranoia. I say it's how not to die. There's a good reason to learn this stuff and practice it. Next thing, have we ever had an earthquake in James City County? Why, yes, we have. What do you do right now if this room starts to shake and you're having an earthquake? What do you do right now? The room is shaking. You're gonna run for the doorway and try to get out of the building? No, you won't get very far.
Under the table.
What we tell the kids is drop, cover, and hold on. Because you won't get very far if the room is moving. And these things up here may look like they're not very dangerous. If one of them falls on your head, you will know it. Get under the table, hold on, and wait it out. You don't want to try to get out of the building. Okay, make sense? All right. And finally, and it breaks my heart to say this, if we are in this building and you're having our class and you hear what you think are shots fired, what will you do? Remember, this is how not to die. what will you do? If you think you can get out safely, by all means, get out safely. That depends on where you're hearing it.
But securing the
direction?
doors and blocking it.
First, you want to go away. If you can safely get away, that's what you want to do. If you can't, because it's imminent, and it might not be gunfire, it might be another threat, another kind of active threat. If you can't run, we need to hunker down and hide. Now, how would we do that in this building? In this room, I mean, how would we do that? Put your thinking caps on and look around the room. What do we do? Shut the doors. Now, those doors don't have locks on them. So what shall we do in that case? We want to make like mice and hide. What, I'm sorry? They open to the outside. This is why you need to start thinking about this. They open out. So what shall we do?
Maybe take somebody's belt. or-
Yes.
And take that
Yes.
flagpole and put the belt across the flagpole. so
Those-
it can-
Yeah, those elbow joints up there can be disabled
Or that,
with
yeah.
a belt or whatever you got. You can do that. And what do we have here? We've got all these wonderful tables. We can start shoving them up against the doors. It takes some effort to get in if you have to do that, if somebody has to get through that. But if they're persistent and they still want to come in this building because they're really after me, I'm the target of opportunity. They're not really after you. And they really know that I'm in here, so they're going to come in. What can we do if they've gotten in? Throw everything you got. If you can trip them. They can't fire much if they're being tripped. But that takes some guts to do that. But if you are pinned in this room, that's what you need to do. Situational awareness. What I want you to do now is everywhere you go, whether it's to the grocery store, if we ever get to a movie again, if we'll ever get to see a movie again, movie theater, shopping area, I want you always to first look for the exits. If you don't have two exits, ask yourself, do I really need to be here? I really need to be in this room. Now, in the grocery store, I already know where the exits are in the grocery store. And I have no hesitation to run out the back of the grocery store if I have to. You shouldn't hesitate either. Always know where the other exits are. Does that make sense to you? Okay, right? Situational awareness, we're going to talk about it every single session. Need to go over a couple of house rules before we start our class. You know, there's no smoking in the public building, right? Very important, restrooms. The restrooms are out that door and they're right about there. Okay, so if you need the restrooms, don't wait for a break. Feel free to go ahead. There is a break room out that door, and there is a there's water and a microwave and some other things. If you bring your food and you want to heat it up, you can use the break room. If you must, oh, you have it. You have it. If you want water, we always have a supply of water. Mike has his cooler in the back. Feel free to bring whatever food and beverages you would like anytime, as long as they're non-alcoholic. I always have to say that. Bring whatever food and beverages you would like. We ask you to please have a cover if you can on your beverages. Let's see what else. Cell phone usage. We know better than anyone that their emergencies happen, and you may need to take a call, and that's okay. If you do, please, we ask you just to step outside, step out into the hallway and take your call. There's no problem with it. Just go ahead and do that. You'll notice we have our radios and phones on because we may, in fact, get such a call. Okay. Class start and end times. Isn't this exciting? I knew you were here for a good reason. We will start on time every night for every session. If you are going to be late, please don't not come. Please come. Even if you must be late, please come. If you know you're going to be really late, just give us a call and let us know, but please come. We will do our very best to end at the posted end time. But sometimes people get excited and they want to talk more about a subject, and we may end up staying later. You are always free to go at the end of time. Okay? Let's see. Mike told you that in front of you, you have a binder. That binder is yours. You can write in it, take notes in it, whatever you would like to do. The front part of the binder is the SOGs or the manual. Front part of the binder are procedures, standard operating guidelines. Second part of the binder is the manual that we're going to be going through tonight. You will notice when you have a chance to look through your binder that the modules in your binder are not lined up with the schedule. Okay, we've moved them around a little bit in a way that we think makes more sense to do. So don't be shocked if the next thing in the binder says disaster psychology and we're going to be teaching a skills review. Just go by this and find it in your binder. Okay. Now, at the end of the course, you will be, if you decide to become a CERT volunteer, at the end of the course, you will receive some equipment from us. You will receive a CERT backpack and some gear that you will need in order to carry out your duties as a CERT volunteer. You will also discover that you need to add things to that backpack, to that binder, as we go through the course. We're also going to need to take a photo of you for your photo ID, which I don't want to. Sorry.
Geez, I don't have mine on either.
Which is a really spiffy ID, and it's what you always need to wear when you are representing CERT, in addition to whatever else you need for that particular event. So you'll have your CERT ID. Next Tuesday is when we take your photographs. So if you want to wear a special shirt or a special hat, please do that next Tuesday when we do fire safety. And we also have some paperwork for you to do. You've done a little bit of it, I know, when you came in the door. But as we go through the class, we're going to be talking to you about what it means to be a CERT volunteer and the agreement that you need to take a look at and see if it makes sense to you to do that. So we'll be going over that in detail, along with some other things like the Good Samaritan laws and so forth, later in the class. All right, everybody with me so far? Okay. Now, I've introduced myself. I'd like to know who you are. What I'd like to ask you to do is tell us why you decided to take the class. So can I start with you, Leah? Can I start with you, please? Tell us who you are and why you decided to come.
Hey, hi, I'm Leah. I'm a 2019 graduate from Old Dominion University. I'm currently pursuing my master's at Arizona State in emergency management and homeland security. That's kind of why I'm here. My mom actually took CERT. I don't think she's active, shame on her, but she did take the CERT class. That's where I heard about it. So I plan to work in mitigation one day, so for FEMA. So that's a little why I'm here.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Richard. I'm a retired firefighter paramedic. And so I was like, well, if I'm gonna volunteer, I might as well use my experience and volunteer in that area. And so I've been reading up on the CERT and sounded like something that I'd enjoy.
I'm glad to have you.
Thank you.
My name is Andrew. I actually started the class a year ago, got kind of derailed, or some things were going on around this time last year that postponed the class. So I I don't know, I think I found out about doing Stop the Bleed. So, it seems like a lot of really relevant information. I'm looking for a way to help out, so excited to get back into it.
When I forgot to ask you what communities you were in, Leah, what community are you?
Like James City.
Okay, county, but is
Oh.
there a neighborhood?
Oh, I live in the Meadows.
Okay.
Kingsmill.
Kingsmill and
I'm in
Kansas?
St. George's 100.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Holly, and I'm a retired physical therapist. I just retired in 2020 in the spring. And I live in Kingsmill, and I read about the CERT program in our bulletin, and I thought it would be interesting, a volunteer opportunity.
My name's Dave, I'm retiring this for the second time, at the end of March. I live in Clinton Heritage, and my wife and I had talked about finding me an activity when I retire, so I don't drive her crazy. And many years ago, I was a volunteer firefighter, and I have a son who's a paramedic and firefighter chief up in Pennsylvania, so where I can help out as much as I can.
We can still get you to be a volunteer firefighter in James City County.
I'm too old. I'm way older than you think.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Robin. I live in Woodland Farms and I'm the operations officer for the Virginia Defense Force. And we have a lot of folks there who are already CERT qualified, but we're also looking at trying to encourage more people to get their certification to make them more able to respond to disasters, because that's mainly what we do. And I figured I should come and do it myself and see what it's all about, since we're going to be trying to push more people to get down.
Great.
Thank you very much. I'll talk to you later.
No, okay.
Anissa, this is not my first time taking CERT. I've done it in other cities. So I was 9 years ago, I did it in Jacksonville, Florida. My interest and my passion is I want to utilize my skills and also be able to help out my city wherever I'm at for disasters.
Great.
Thank you.
Paul Costs, I live in Colonial Heritage. I'm a semi-active RN, a retired firefighter, volunteer. I would like to talk to you. And was involved in the Medical Reserve Corps, which is, I think, the same thing in Massachusetts quite a bit. And moved down here about a while ago and got.
And they haven't snapped you up to be involved in the vaccinations.
Actually, I got my first email today and I think I'm doing something Saturday.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. What a bunch of talent that we have here. That's wonderful. We have everything from doctors to active service members, retired service members, people who work for the county, people who used to work for the county. Everyone has something to contribute. And we look forward to all of you being part of the team. Okay, now I guess I have to do the presentation. Well, we could, I guess. We could do the lights, I guess. If we dim the lights, you promise you won't go to sleep. Okay, all right.
Jack,
Um,
dimming the lights help?
that help? We've never recorded ourselves before. Some of us are ambivalent about this process, Jack. So we're working through this for the first time. We're hoping that we'll be able to host Zoom for people who want to take some pieces of the sessions at home. Not all of them, because we have hands-on work we have to do. So, but maybe some of you can do. with
That's a
Zoom.
lot worse, Mike.
It's worse.
Yeah.
It's what?
Which one's more than-
We're just going to ignore this and keep on going.
That's better.
Setting the stage. Let's talk about why we're even doing this. Natural disasters happen, and they happen. It seems to me like they're happening more often, but maybe that's just my age talking. I don't know. The CERT program was developed in Los Angeles in 1985. Can you imagine why it started in LA? Anybody got an idea? What happens in LA a lot? Earthquakes. There's also fires, other natural disasters. The first responders the government decided, you know, we can't be everywhere. We cannot get to everyone after an earthquake. It's to our advantage to see what we can do to train people to help themselves until we can get there. They started this process in 1985 because people want to help, don't they, after a disaster. People come out of the woodwork to help. People you've never seen before want to come and help you. And that's why you're here, because you want to help too. The unfortunate thing is that if you don't know how to do it and do it safely, you may become injured. You may become part of the situation. You may become a victim instead of a rescuer. Our job is to try to make sure that doesn't happen and that you know how to exercise your skills and take care of persons who are injured safely. Now, here's an example that I can give you. That same year, in 1985, Los Angeles sent a team of rescuers, first responders, to Mexico City. I don't know, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Sent a team of rescuers to Mexico City. In that year, in 1985, there was a horrendous earthquake in Mexico City. Thousands died, thousands. They were sent to assist in that earthquake. Between 9,000 and 10,000 people were killed in that disaster. Early on, within minutes after the disaster, people came out to help. They turned out in the hundreds to help rescue friends and strangers. 700 people were saved in those first critical minutes and hours by untrained volunteers. That's the good news. The bad news is that a third of them at least were either injured or killed in the process. And that's why we're here, to make sure that if you assist someone, you come out of it whole. We don't want you to die trying. Los Angeles piloted the first CERT program in 1986. From there, the federal government had a look at it and said, you know, this has some merit. Why don't we make it not earthquake, but all hazards? So today, I can tell you that all 50 states, all of our territories, and many foreign countries have active CERT programs because we are the bridge between the event that happens and the time professional first responders can get there. Emergency services personnel are the best trained to take care of persons who are injured after a disaster, but they are spread rather thinly. A disaster by its nature is widespread, and the number of professionals we have doesn't necessarily go everywhere we need them to go. So we may have to rely on ourselves, on our neighbors, on our community, on each other to get through the first period of time after a disaster. So I use the term bridge. We are the bridge. We're also called, the official term is resource multiplier. We are the ability to have boots on the ground almost immediately after a disaster. We can make the resources go further because we know that lives can be saved in those critical first minutes and hours after tornado, hurricane, earthquake. Our job is to be there to provide that help. Our training covers the basic skills that you need to do that and to do it safely. And our mission is to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. You will hear us say that every single session. And when I ask you, what's the CERT mission? I want to hear you all say to do the greatest good for the greatest number of people. That becomes really critical when we're talking about deploying resources to different people who have different needs. So, what we will cover in this course, not necessarily in this order, we will cover tonight basic disaster preparedness because You can't help others unless you yourself are prepared. So we're going to talk about your own emergency plans and what you need to do, how not to die. We're going to go over next Tuesday, we talk about fire safety. And if you've never had a chance to use a fire extinguisher, this is your chance. We set up a fire just for you, and you'll get a chance to put out the fire. We'll also talk about utilities, gas, and electricity, and why those are important for you to know about as well. We teach you how to search safely for persons who have been affected by a disaster. Safely is the key word. We teach you how to, disaster medical operations. We teach you how to care for a patient. Once you've discovered someone, you're rescuing someone, what are the things you can do that critically can save their life right away? We'll talk about how CERT is organized and how we fit into the county government and into the overall nationwide program. We'll talk a fair amount about the psychology of disasters, because disasters, people are injured not just by physical things. People can be injured by the trauma of the situation as well. Not just the people in the building that you might be trying to search, but also your CERT volunteers and your first responders. So we'll talk about that, and we will cover briefly CERT and terrorism, not because we expect you to run headlong into a terrorist attack. We don't. That's part of what we teach. Okay, so that is the overview of what we're going to cover. We're going to tell you about the roles of CERT. What are your responsibilities if you decide to become a CERT volunteer? Talk about the hazards and exactly what we expect of you. Oh, I should tell you, I do not read slides to you. You have all this material in your book. You may not have the exact slides, but all the material is there. If I fail to cover something and you have a question about it, please let me know. Otherwise, you can read this one side. So I am not going to read these to you because that's called, is that called death by penalty? We're not going to do that. So we also need to let you know that if you need a break, and we haven't called one, take one. Restrooms are down that way, break room is over there. If I start to see people get up and go, I realize I've talked too long, and we'll take a formal break. Okay. The community is our community, your community. Is anybody not from James City, by the way? I didn't ask that. Okay. Yeah. You're from James City? No, I'm not. And you said, I'm not. You're not from James City? No. Can you tell us where you're from? York?
Yeah, and up north.
Okay. Good. Okay. Your community is responsible in part for helping to prepare the community for a disaster. We want to talk about the kind of planning that you personally and your community does. I've had the question more than once. Hey, why are we even doing this? I mean, isn't that what the government is supposed to do? If there's a disaster, isn't the government supposed to come in and take care of us? Are they supposed to? Well, there are different levels of government. We have local, county government, we have state, we even have regional, and we have the federal government. Each one of those has a role to play. How many of you, let's see, let me briefly put it. Your government, all levels of your government, have a responsibility to have an emergency plan. Does James City County have one? Yes, it does. The emergency management director works in this building, and she is responsible for the James City County plan. And she coordinates with the region and with the federal government, and also with the county, all levels of the county government as well. every level of government has a responsibility to put that plan in place and to make sure you know what it is. That plan, the emergency operations plan, tells you who's supposed to do what and how they're supposed to do it. With what resources, where do they get them? What kind of facilities? Is there an emergency shelter? Their job is to make sure there is one if we need one, and that it's safe for you to go to. But in a major catastrophe or disaster, we may be on our own for a while. Our job is to learn about what's available in the county, learn what they can provide, but also what we can do in our neighborhoods or for ourselves, to practice and take training just like you're doing right now. And to do this, to report suspicious activity. We'll cover a lot of that when we get to CERT and terrorism, but right now, you need to be aware, situational awareness again. If you see something that does not look right to you, you need to report it. And you report it by picking up the phone and calling. What might you see that looks suspicious? Well, what if you're riding down the road, Long Hill Road or Centerville Road, and you see someone up at the top of one of the power lines or telephone lines? There's nothing but a ratty old pickup truck down there at the base. Does that seem right to you? It doesn't seem right to me. I would call 911. Power companies, telephone companies will have a logoed vehicle there, and they will be wearing a uniform. You don't see that, you need to let somebody know. So be aware of things that go on around you and to volunteer, which is what you're doing tonight. So what's a disaster? What does disaster mean to you? Paul, what's a disaster mean to you?
Situation's gotten out of hand, but you have the people and resources to do it.
Exactly right, spot on, good answer. When an event occurs that overwhelms your local resources. That could be a hurricane, could be an earthquake, could be a massive fire. California has massive fires among other places. Yes, when we don't have enough resources to spread. Now, if you have a fire in your home, that's a disaster for you. No, make no mistake, that is an emergency. We're talking about a widespread event that affects lots of people and may spread our resources too thinly. So this nice slide tells us there are three kinds of disasters. What's a natural disaster?
Storm, earthquake.
Earthquake would be a natural disaster. What else? What about a technological disaster?
Power collapse in Texas.
Yeah, that would be exactly right. What else is a technological disaster?
Power outages.
3 Mile Island.
Yes, indeed. And the third type is an intentional disaster. And what does that mean to you?
Terrorism.
A deliberate act on the part of someone. Yes, indeed. What kinds of things happen right here to us in James City County? Let's get them out on the table. What should we be prepared to handle? And you said
Hurricanes.
hurricanes, definitely. What else? Tornadoes.
Snowstorms.
Snowstorms. When we get them, sometimes they are devastating. Was anyone here in 1998-99 for the great snowstorm? 1998-99. It was an ice storm, I'm sorry, ice storm. That was devastating. What else happens here?
Some nation be flooded.
Flooding, absolutely. Anything else? Well, we talked about earthquakes. That's kind of ugly. We did talk, what else? What else can happen right here?
right across the river from, Surrey Power Plant.
We have a nuclear power plant very close to us, within 10 miles. What else? But you know, who's counting? But yeah, it's 10 miles. What else? Okay. We have running through our county, not too far from here, something called a railroad. Do you know what travels up and down the railroad every single day? My predecessor used to call it triple methyl ethyl, terrible death. Boxcars full of chemicals, various kinds of chemicals. And the highways. We have 18-wheelers with cistern trucks and who knows what. If there is an accident and one of them is turned over and chemicals are released, we have an issue. We have a disaster on our hands. What else could happen here?
Our bases can be attacked.
I'm sorry.
Our Navy bases can be attacked.
Yes, you're right. When I first moved to this area 25 years ago, I thought, boy, this is such a peaceful area. There is nothing here for me to worry about militarily. Got an education. Yes, we have the naval weapons. We have many, many military potential targets here. And we have something that people will call soft targets. What do you think of soft targets?
A person?
A person? Where do persons congregate in James City County? I'm sorry. CW, absolutely.
Colleges.
Colleges. How about Busch Gardens? What a great place to have a terrorist attack. You get everybody in there on a Saturday afternoon in August. We have many things for us to be aware of that might happen here. But there are three things that all disasters have in common, and they're up here on the board. They are relatively unexpected. Now, you'll say, well, with a hurricane, we generally know it's coming, don't we? I mean, all the news stations are telling us it'll be here in 3 days, it'll be here. And there's a cone of uncertainty. And if you're in that cone, you need to be prepared for it. But by and large, a disaster is unexpected. We call those no notice events. Okay, so they can be predicted if they're hurricanes, but no notice events. The second thing is that our emergency personnel will be overwhelmed, may be overwhelmed, probably will be overwhelmed. And lives, health, and our very environment are threatened. Those are the three things common to every single disaster. We talked about the most common disasters that happen here in James City County. Our job as individuals and the county's job and the state's job is to make sure we know what they are and that we are prepared to deal with them. Now, also running through James City County, does anybody have natural gas in your homes? Okay, if you have gas pipelines, what else do we have running through the county? Power lines, what else? We're getting there. Water. Mhm. Also, what about oil? We have oil pipelines coming through our county. We also have water. You said water. We have many dams in James City County. I had no idea until I became part of this department how many dams we have. It's our job in emergency management to know that and to know how those are maintained and to mitigate the disaster if one of those dams is breached in some way. If there is a major disaster, do you remember a couple of years back, was it Suffolk or Surrey, where we had all the tornadoes all at one time? Suffolk? They took out a hospital. I think it was a major disaster. And it was fairly localized, but they were completely overwhelmed. Emergency services congregated from the surrounding area to help them. In a major disaster, we We still have police, and we still have firefighters and EMS. But in a major event, police are going to prioritize, just as firefighters and EMS will. They're going to take the most grave instance or issue, or the one that affects the most people. Remember we said doing the most good for the most people? And they're going to prioritize that first. So if my house is on fire, but the landing is enveloped in a big gas explosion, the landing, you know where the landing, that whole community is going up in flames. Where do you think firefighters, EMS, and police are going to go? To Judith's house or to the landing? They're going to go where they are needed most. So, lower priorities, which would be me, has to be met a different way. I don't spend a lot of time on hazards related to structures. You just need to be aware that not all structures are created equal. How many of you live in a single family detached house? Anybody? Condominiums, townhomes? Anybody have an RV or a mobile home? All of those are structured differently, and they react differently to high winds and flooding. Oddly enough, older buildings seem to tolerate some of these disasters a little better than some of the newer ones. But you just need to know what's going on with your building. Are you a newer building? Do you know where the gas is? Gas terminal is? Do you know if your area floods? Are you going to get first floor flood in your area? And you may not know, you may not be able to choose where you are when a disaster strikes, because disasters are unexpected. So if you happen to be shopping in, oh, let's say Walmart, and we have tornado alerts, we're getting tornado warnings, not watches, but warnings. Warnings mean seek shelter immediately. You get a warning, it would be better not to be in a big box store. It would be better to be in a smaller structure, preferably underground. But if you need to be in a structure that's going to withstand it. A big box has the danger of collapsing, coming off. If it's the only place you can be, well, that's where you are. So you just need to find a way to be safe there, because we can't predict when these things are going to happen. But if you have a choice, seek the strongest structure there is. If you are in an RV or a mobile home or your automobile, and there is a tornado, you're better off out of those structures than in them. That may be counterintuitive, but it is true. You see a tornado, you really probably can't outrun it. If you can't get away from it, get out of your car, get as flat on the ground as you possibly can. They say get in a ditch. Well, there might be a ditch. Get as flat as you possibly can. The car is a projectile. You may not be. So just become aware of your own building and become aware of what's around you. I don't go into big boxes if I know there are storms. I'll shop a different day. In your own home, sometime in the next week or so, check for things like, are my gas lines secure? Is there a chance that in an earthquake, that humongous bookcase I've got with all those wonderful books is going to come down and crush my child? Just be aware of what you've got. We're going to cover fire, electricity, and so forth next Tuesday. I need to catch up with myself now. Do you know what I forgot to do, Mike? The exercise.
Yeah.
Want to hit me now or later?
No.
I think before we go any further, let's take a 5-minute break. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about emergency preparedness for you personally. I just walked right through it. Yes.
There you go.
Okay,
That's
let's take
okay.
a 5-minute break. Restrooms are down here, the break room is over there.
You were worried about me stealing your show,
I
see?
was, you do that. I'm gonna read it to you, and then I'm gonna give it to them, and you're gonna have a few minutes to put it together. What supplies do you need
Can you hear her audio okay?
to have on
Yes.
hand to be prepared for a major disaster, such as a widespread hurricane, where you may not be able to replenish those supplies or obtain what you need for at least 2 weeks? Consider a family of 4 and at least 1 pet. Any pet you want. Okay. Okay.
It's gonna be too hard to follow.
Yeah, but it looked a lot better.
This is better.
No, following her, even though you couldn't keep up.
First thing is,
I could take it off the crazy stand.
Water or something to purify water, too, you know.
Yeah.
You'll have 2 weeks with the water.
That's if you're away from home.
Well, I just.
Sometimes they'll at least have
I'm gonna give you this.
Jack, let me get an assignment for Jeff.
Maybe other prescriptions, you know, prescription medication or something for, you know, your kids or things like that.
Judith, can I have one for Jeff and Diane?
Oh, and why don't we give them,
Jeff, can you hear me?
give them. number
Yes.
3.
Okay, we have an assignment for you, a quick assignment. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
You're away from home.
a radio.
You're in your automobile or vehicle. You find yourself in the middle of an emergency where you are stranded without outside resources. Any time of year, it doesn't matter, any weather situation. What should you have in your car to ensure your survival? And you've got 5 minutes to work on it,
Yeah.
and we'll get back to you.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you. You can use electricity for, things like that, with a breathing machine, or asthma, you know. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off my earpiece though, and I'm gonna put you on the speakers on the laptop so you can contribute, okay?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna let Diane read the list.
Okay,
Okay, we're gonna try.
okay. All right, so you had about 5
Hold on a
minutes
second,
to
Diane.
do this.
Hold on.
And now you can separate a little bit if you want to take off your masks.
But they can't
You
hear you.
can do that or leave it on if you wish to. Let's see what you came up with, because what we're talking about here may be the difference between life and death for you and your family. Leo, who's the spokesperson for this group? Andrew.
Yeah,
All right, what was
okay.
your task, Andrew, for this group here?
So we've got enough support, we want to have enough supplies to be prepared for a major disaster such as a widespread hurricane. At least 2 weeks, where family of 4 plus 1 pet. So
What
first-
pet did you choose?
Well, we thought if our pet was a cow, then we could get some good food out of it. you know?
Whoa,
But no,
awesome.
we didn't, we didn't go that far. Well, so the first thing we talked about is water and something to purify water.
Okay, now, you know I'm gonna interrupt you. You know I'm gonna do that. Water is critical, I think, for all of our situations. Now, for 2 weeks, group, Andrew, how much water do you think you need?
Gallon per person per day.
All right, we have a ringer here. Yes, at least a gallon per person. Now, if you have the cow, you may need more than that.
I'll
But-
think about water.
Okay, at least a gallon per person per day. Now, you might say to Andrew, but Andrew, I've got a faucet, I've got water. Are you sure you're gonna have water? Maybe not if you're in Texas or Mississippi or, yeah, you might want to consider not having that source of water. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
And then we also talked about prescription medications, you know, as someone in your family requires that, other, you know, medical devices, that sort of thing. Food, of course, canned food, dehydrated food, food that you can keep on hand without needing refrigeration, radio, something to get news about the ongoing whatever disaster is happening, and then potentially be able to communicate with the outside, the whole ham radio thing.
You're talking about like a battery powered radio
Right, yeah, or a
perhaps,
little
or a
hand
crank
tank one, or-
radio, something like that, okay.
Solar thing. That sort of brings up also portable chargers and solar chargers for your phone, that sort of thing. It's cell services still, obviously you have to be pretty major access with it, cell service, but
Well, not necessarily.
Mhm.
I think you'll find that sporadically we lose service anyway, whether there is a disaster or not. If the cell towers are disabled, and they could very well be, you may find yourself without cell phones. In that case, what if you had a landline? Do you think that might work? You know what a landline is?
And
It probably will.
unless it's connected to your internet.
That's right. That's truly not a landline, but you're right. I got suckered into that too. I thought I had a landline and it was not. It was an internet line. So if you have a true old-fashioned landline, you may be able to get out with that if you can't use your cell phone. Go ahead.
we also talked about some fuel, might be a lot to run a regular gas generator for 2 weeks, but if you've got medical devices or things like that, you need to run a couple times a day, and, some fuel for things like that. First aid, not just cuts and scrapes and things to keep you from getting infections, but hemorrhage control, that sort of thing, burn control for aid, candles, speaking of burns, candles, flashlights, that sort of thing.
And I'm going to interrupt you again. Candles are okay, as long as you know the dangers with your candle. If you have any kind of a pet or child who could knock that candle over, it's not a good idea to use it. If you've got any other way for light, use it. What other ways might there be?
Lanterns,
Lanterns,
lantern.
powered by what? Batteries.
battery or solar.
Batteries or solar. I have these all over my house. Herb lights his entire house in Maine up with Lucy lights. They are solar lights. I keep them on my windowsills, and when the power goes out, these are wonderful. This one will even charge your cell phone. I don't know what else it will do. Anyway, and it lights a whole room. I can really buy. Lucy lights, Luci, Lucy lights, and they compact. They compact. 3 breaths will bring it to this stage, or you can pull it apart if you have to. If you have COPD and you can't do that, you can pull it apart. 3 breaths will open it up like that. Keep it on the windowsill, you've always got light. I use them when the power goes out. I've got one in every bathroom and every room. And Herb lives in Maine in the summer. I don't have electricity. He uses these. They work really well. If you're going to have flashlights or you're going to have lanterns, what else do you have to have? A supply of batteries. Okay, go ahead, Andrew.
We also talked about dog food, or enough food for our pet until it gets bad enough for our pet to become food, of course. So then,
Or then one day you wake up and he's chewed your arm off.
yeah, that's why we got
I know, it's a good group, I know, yeah.
And then speaking of that, if we talked about if you have an electric stove or a gas stove or a gas oven that runs or is controlled by electricity, enough charcoal or propane to run your grill, or if you have a grill to use to cook. Along those lines, also firewood, if it's winter, you've got a fireplace,
How about if you don't have a fireplace?
lots of blankets, lots of hand warmers.
Go ahead.
And then let's talk about hand sanitizer, things like that, or you can talk about saline solution, things for cleaning and sanitizing, bleach. And then the last thing we talked about, where we finished up, was personal protection. If it's a real emergency situation and first responders aren't getting to your house, way to sort of defend your
job. Good job. What comes to mind as you listen to this group talk about what they need for 2 weeks? Anything that you'd like to add or question?
One of the questions that you put together, okay,
Mhm.
is have you backed up anything that you really need to have? So pick important papers. So you're assuming you're staying in shelter, but at some particular point, they say, well, you have to evacuate.
Right, right, and that is, that's your group, right? Evacuation, right? Right, so that's not a bad idea. If you find yourself, you may be hunkered down for 2 weeks and all of a sudden gusts of wind, wet ground, tree comes down into your house. It's not a major evacuation for the neighborhood, but it is for you. Do you have what you need to get out? Well done. Can you think of anything else?
Diapers. I've got a 3-month-old. I should have thought
Oh,
of that
my
right away.
goodness, yes. Right, anytime you have a special requirement, like a baby who needs maybe formula, maybe diapers, whatever babies need, you're gonna make sure you have enough of those for 2 weeks too, otherwise you're gonna be cutting up t-shirts and things like that.
If you have bathtubs, we want to fill your bathtub with water.
That's a thought too.
One day we lived in Paris, so they were-
That is a great idea. And if you don't have a supply of water in jugs or whatever, consider it.
We always do.
Yeah. Because that, especially if it's a disaster and you're moving around and working, whatever, you're gonna get dehydrated. You're gonna need more water maybe. And so will your pet. Okay, yes, sir.
Something you mentioned filling a bathtub. I stumbled across this a couple weeks ago. It's called the water bob. It's
Water bob.
yeah, it's a giant bladder that basically is the size of a bathtub, and you set it in there and fill the whole thing up. And it, yeah, I've never.
If you have a house, a well, and the electricity goes out, you're going to very quickly fill the bathtub with water.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're gonna throw a curve at this group. You are at home, and remember in Texas, what did they get? A boil water notice. So you're at home, you can't get anywhere. You have water, but you can't use it, can't drink it. What will you do? There's no help. What will you do? Anybody? What will you do?
Okay, well, water filter, you can purify.
If you have a good water filter, you can filter your drink. That is where you prioritize your needs. Hydration is number one. Sanitation comes later. Hydration is number one. You can use contaminated water to flush a toilet,
Right.
but you can't drink it. So you need to have a way to purify water, and a good water filter is not a bad thing to have. There are many kinds of water filters. And that's in my car. I have a whole lot of stuff in my car. And one of the things that I always keep in my car is a water filter that will fill up a bag. It's not the life straws that I know you've seen. If you don't have enough breath to pull water through the straw, or if you have a pet who can't, these little Soya water filters with a bladder attached to it is a good idea. You just go on Google, go online and look for water filters. Soya is a good brand. I don't endorse any brand, but Soya is the one I happen to carry. So you can use a filter. What else can you use? Yes. If you don't have heavy metals, it will kill what's alive in the water. But if they're telling you that it's a contaminant like a metal of some sort, that won't help you. But yes, bleach is critical.
How do you do that? I've never heard of that.
How do you
purify water with bleach?
Okay, we will cover it in great depth, but what you do is you filter the water so it's as clear as you can get it, and you use 8 drops of sodium hypochlorite, which is bleach. Okay. And there is a page in your book that talks about that in detail. And so I won't steal their thunder later on with that, but yes, you can do that. And bleach expires, so make sure you have up-to-date bleach. What else? Can you do anything else with that water?
I've heard that in a pinch, you can take an emergency blanket or reflective blanket, and lay it out in the sun, and put water into clear water bottles and lay them on the blanket, and the sun will irradiate whatever's in there, and it takes a few hours. You have to
It does, it takes 8 hours
Right.
of full sunlight, and it's called the SODIS project, and it's used in third world countries. But you know what? We can do it too. You need a PET or PETE, clear bottle, plastic bottle. You can do that. Takes 8 hours of sunlight. Absolutely. You can also have water purification tablets, depending on what's in the water. What's the problem in the water? Well done, guys, and thank you for letting me interrupt you all over the place. Okay. Group 2, what was your task?
You have to leave, no notice, leave your house, no notice. What are you gonna take?
Yeah, go back away.
So the typical is pretty much the same water as you have a pet, you need some, take some pet food, of course. Blankets, you want to show your first aid kit, canned food with a can opener, flashlight, and then batteries associated with the flashlight. Make sure your cell phone is charged, have charger devices, rank radio, just in case you can't get into reception. Depending on the weather, you want to be sure you have weather-related gear. Is it raining? Is it snowing? Is it cold? You can't plan that ahead, but you gotta think it's cold, so I gotta grab winter coats. Anyone that has a special diet, you need to make sure you have it. If you have a pet, you wanna make sure they have a leash and something to sleep on if you can. If you can, have sleeping bags and dinner mattress, you may be stuck in your car. Of course, all the sanitary wipes, hand sanitizer, toilet paper. Equally, you wanna be sure, we learned this through Florida, the full tank of gas.
Absolutely. How many of you have more than half a tank of gas in your car right now? Take it from experience. Make sure when you get to a half a tank, you fill it up, because you might need it for survival.
Believe it or not, you win cash. Because sometimes when traveling, credit cards may be down and people won't take cash.
Yes, sir.
Have cash anymore.
Well, I know you're absolutely right.
What kind of cash?
$100 bills,
No, you win small cash.
small denominations on our fleets. Yes.
And the other thing is important is know where you're going. You
Now,
still get
what
in
a
your car and
concept.
drive away and know your evacuation route and where you're going. If you're not going to the center, I gotta go here, I gotta drive into,
Right.
West Virginia to get away from the hurricane. We have somebody know where
Right.
you're going.
So that is so important. You don't want to just throw your stuff in the car and get. You need to have a plan as to where you're going and what you'll do when you get there. And you need to have more than one route. You
Yes,
need to have
you
3
you
routes.
may want to take an alternative route because the main routes may be jammed.
Exactly.
It may be a little old school, but I actually have real road maps.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
I do too.
Yes. You guys are on, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, save that one. Save that one, yes. Real maps.
Yeah, I
Yes.
have no- I like that.
So,
Go to AAA.
anything that you want to add? Are you guys done?
Yeah, I mean, you can keep going on and on, but I mean, just the basics. Because what you're trying to do is go somewhere where you're going there
Jeff?
where you know you can get stuff.
Mhm.
This is more. if
We
you-
hope you.
If you get stuck
Yes.
on the road for a couple
You
days.
can you still hear the
wanna be
group,
able to
Jeff?
survive.
You need to.
Yes, yes, we can.
important To know
Okay.
what route you.
Your
want.
group's coming up next.
And.
So if you have anything
is there a
that's different,
hotel you're
I'll
looking
let
for,
them know.
or a
How's that?
Family member.
Okay.
in
That sounds good.
Virginia or. But you need to know what it's gonna take to get there. Do I have enough gas to get there? When I get there, is the hotel expecting me? And will they take my pet? That would be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
If you get there and they won't let you bring your chihuahua in. Or your whatever.
The other thing I would add to what they talked about is we're all talking about like snowstorms and stuff, but if there's civil unrest,
Mm.
it does your route take you right to Richmond or right to Washington? DC? Is there a way to avoid that?
So plan your routes ahead, have more than one, and make sure, I've already called ahead, I've got 3 routes planned out in different directions. And I know where the hotels are, and I know which ones will take my dog. and which ones will give me a, refrigerator, microwave, or whatever, so that I can survive in that room if I have. Plan ahead. Well done. Okay,
So our scenario is we're away from home in an automobile or any other type of vehicle, and we're in the middle of an emergency, stranded without any outside resources. This is any time of the year, any weather situation for more than 24 hours. So our supplies that we would have, depending on the weather, type of clothing, hopefully it's appropriate, and that we have carrying with us. Blanket, e-tools, first aid kit, fire extinguisher, clothing, sneakers, because females are wearing high heels, medication, chargers.
and you're keeping all this in the car?
Yes.
Medications?
Well, if you're
Traveling.
If you're traveling, yeah. Absolutely. If you're just, let's say, going to
My Jeep has a shovel.
and you don't make it, you might
Yeah, keep
not
track of what they didn't say, Jeff.
have that.
Jeff, you have anything different?
We just had a few things. Ours was the car scenario.
Yep.
So most of the good things obviously have said, but I was going off of a four-wheel. So the things I have are like flares, a whistle,
Flares, a whistle,
matches, knife,
matches, a knife,
toilet paper, sanitizing wipes.
toilet paper,
We
shovel,
also have a radio.
battery
Again,
powered radio,
yeah, and did we say shovel?
Shovel.
And a shovel.
shovel, depending on the weather. You did say shovel? Okay, we're gonna let the group here continue on, see what they have to offer. Thanks, everybody.
Flashlight with the battery, snacks, maps, multi-use tool, and then water, potable, non-potable, and then also the still things for the radiator, should we need to fix the car if it shut down on us.
But really, you do describe two different scenarios. If we're on our way to Richmond, bad things happen. We're not going anywhere.
Aren't you?
Well, my. I don't
Aren't
know,
you?
I
Not that much.
I have a multi-tool, I always have sneakers.
Yep.
I have a seatbelt cutter, I have a flashlight, I have a charger. I have a first aid kit.
You keep all that in your car.
Yeah, and I have I have a fleece, a jacket, and a raincoat that I don't normally wear, and it stays in the car.
Yep.
And I have a blanket, so.
Excellent.
That's,
That's what,
that's always there.
if it's not perishable,
Yeah.
put it in your car. You might need it. You might need it.
Thanks,
There are
Jeff.
two of us.
Good job.
There are two of us in my
Thank
family
you.
and my dog. And
Want to try to keep you
we're
engaged.
out together. There's always.
We're here.
In my car, but it's non-perishable. It isn't gourmet fare, but if I had to, I could eat it. They taste like dirt. I mean, they're like, they're bars, but they're like MREs kind of thing. But if you had to eat it and you had nothing else, you can eat it. But in your car right now, I'd like all of you to think about what you need in your car to survive. I used to travel to Annapolis twice a week, and I take 301. Route 301 has lots of dark tree-lined areas where there's no houses, nothing. And I had nightmares. Okay, what if I break down right here? And for some reason, I can't change my tire or whatever. What am I going to do? Well, I have my ham radio. I have other radios. I can defend myself, but what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here all night? Well, maybe if I can't get the one that's loosened on my tire, and my cell phone for some reason doesn't work because there's patches there where it doesn't. So think about that. It's only Annapolis. Okay, it's not that far. But I was always prepared with all that material. And I have an everyday carry bag. What's an everyday carry bag? It never leaves my possession. It is, I never carry designer purses anymore. I carry a bag with what I need to survive. It's got my medications in it. It's got my husband's medications in it, except for insulin. It has safe kit. You don't need a ton of stuff. It has everything I need in it to make it through the night safely. And this is always in my heat, tools, blankets, among other things. You never know when you're gonna need them. That's the whole point of doing this exercise. Make sure you have in your car what you will need. The only thing you might not have is meds. But I carry mine with me every day. Every day carry that. People who were in the Twin Towers in New York on 9/11, those who survived, many of them will tell you, if you talk to them now, that they never go anywhere without a bag with water, a face mask, something to protect their eyes, and a whistle. Guess why? They never go anywhere without it. I don't need that. Okay, well done, guys. Anything else you want to keep in the car that you can think of? How about the Zoom team?
Yeah, how about you, Jeff? Anything else?
No, I think you pretty well covered it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any surprises here? Is
Hey,
anything-
Mike? How about the water that's in your water heater? I don't think that was mentioned.
Water in your water
If
heater.
there's water in your water heater, yes, there is. Will you drink it?
No.
What do you do anyway, don't you? I mean, if you get hot water out of the faucet, is it?
Well, I think they're saying that even if you can't, you can drain the water in your hot water heater if you are
Right.
desperate for water. I wouldn't drink it. I'd purify it. I'd filter it and purify it before I drink it. But yeah, good point. Excellent.
Thank you, Jack.
Anything else? Put yourself in the mindset that you're ready for anything. And you don't have to fill your whole car up with supplies. Even if it's in a bag.
One thing that's worth, a lot depends upon where you get your meds from.
Yes.
But I've been trapped various times in places without, usually on a return. And I've been able to go to the local CVS
Mhm.
and have my scripts moved up and have them filled.
Yeah.
But then you have to get moved down. So it's a little bit of pain, but it's a whole lot better
But
than
if you
running
need
out.
it, it's better than running out. Absolutely it is. Absolutely. Anything else? Very good. Let's move on. Well, we just talked about it. We assess the situation. Wherever you are, you need to determine what it is you need. Where are you? What do you need? What's going to happen? What if? What if I don't have water? What if I'm stranded? What if it's freezing outside? Do I have what I need in my car, in my house to survive? We do teach a course called Off the Grid. It's a 4-hour session. It's not to prepare you to be a homesteader. It's not to prepare you to be a prepper in the Ozarks. It's what happens when the grid is down and you have to survive in your house or your workplace of work, whatever. I encourage you to take it. Mike will let you know when we get a slot to take that course. It's how to survive off the grid. Okay, your task, Holly? Yes, Holly, yeah, your task was this, if you had to evacuate, okay? You have to decide to stay or go sometimes, and you have to make that decision fairly quickly sometimes. Sometimes there's no choice, you have to go. Are we in a mandatory evacuation area in James City County? Flood evacuation area? No, we are not in a mandatory evacuation area. But you're right, there are parts of the county that flood. And if you go online to knowyourzone.gov, I think it is, and you put in your address, it will tell you if you are in one of those zones. It's still not mandatory. Parts of the Chickahominy Creek area, Chickahominy
The Haven.
Haven, that area, much of it floods. And we have notified people there, you know, you are about to get some storm surge. And some of them choose not to go. That's their choice. But we're not in a mandatory. Now, the Tidewater further south is. They are in a mandatory evacuation area. So you may have to decide to leave if there's a Cat 4 hurricane coming and you know it. and the cone says it's coming here, you have to decide, am I gonna stay here and weather it? Am I gonna get in my car and go somewhere where I think it's gonna be safer with my family, my dog? Make the decision early. If you wait too late, you are gonna be on that highway with everybody else who waited. And you may not want to live in your car on 64 for that long. Make the decision, get your map, and go. All right, this is a concept we've all touched on. It's absolutely critical that you get right. You will have heard the media and our politicians and our government use these terms, shelter in place and shelter for extended stay. They almost never get it right. So make sure you know really what they want you to do. Shelter in place means you find an interior room in your house, preferably without an outside wall, preferably with no windows, where you can safely stay sealed in for a couple of hours. Why would you have to do that, you think? Anybody? Why would you ever want to do that? Do you remember the refinery explosions? Was it in Texas, Louisiana? Not long ago, a year, 2 years ago. Explosions, toxic gases everywhere, and an order came out immediately. Shelter in place. Do not leave your safe room. Do not go now, because the gases would overwhelm and kill you. Pretty heavy stuff. If we get an accident on 64 or one of the major highways and there's a cloud of toxic gas coming our way, you may learn about it through one of our alert systems, and you may be told, shelter in place now. It doesn't mean 10 minutes from now, it means right now. So you need to go home and find a room in your house where you could safely do that. And when you're in that room, you have to be there for a couple hours, 3, 4, probably no longer than 5, because you're going to run out of air. Because what you have to do is seal that room up. Sheltering in place is not what you do for a hurricane. You'd never survive. Sheltering in place is short term, and it's to keep you safe for 3, 4, 5 hours. What you need to seal up that room with, what do you think? Blankets, towels, what else could you have in that room already? Just seal the room. I'm sorry?
Plastic sheeting.
Plastic sheeting, absolutely. And if you don't have plastic sheeting,
Duct tape.
you really should, some sort of tape, some sort of way to seal all the openings. It's better than nothing, okay? Better than, get the contractor weight. If you can't get regular plastic sheeting, get 5 mil contractor weight, have it in the room already. You don't want to be in receipt of the order to shelter and go, hey honey, where do we put that plastic? Where duct
Honey,
tape?
where's the duct tape?
Where's the tape? And you might want to have painters tape if you don't want to use whatever you've got. You need to be able to seal the vents and the sink. The vents and the sink. I choose a bathroom because, and if I'm there for 5 hours, yeah. In that room, you need a communication network. What might you might have a radio in that room. In my bathroom closet, there is a transistor, another transistor, boy, my old, a battery powered radio and batteries. Sheeting, tape. I never go anywhere without grabbing my ham radio and my cell phone, and I keep the charger in the bathroom. I don't know if I'll get a decent signal, but I can try on my ham radio. and whatever your pet needs, if you have your pet with you. You'll want to have your pet with you. And if you have a baby, you're gonna want to take care of that baby for 3, 4, 5 hours too. This is a serious place to be. How will you know when it's safe to leave? Your radio, your cell phone will tell you it's okay now to leave, because you only have so much air. So if the governor comes out and says, okay, major hurricane, you need to shelter in place, be prepared for at least 10 days. Okay, think about what they're telling you. They're not telling you to do that. They're really telling you to shelter for an extended stay. Does that make sense? Okay. Because hardly anybody gets it right. But I don't want to be the time, I don't want to be wrong and get it wrong when they really mean shelter in place, when they really mean go and seal up your room. We talked about sheltering for an extended stay. Now, if you can't shelter at home, that's when the county, we hope, will open up mass or community shelters for us. Either before the event happens, if we know it's coming, or afterwards for those whose homes have been damaged and they make their way to the shelter. We have them in James City County. We have multiples that we can open. And if they're needed, you will be notified via the radio, via radio television stations. Good reason to always have a workable radio so that you know. And if you're signed up for JCC Alert, about which more later, you'll get notifications that way as well. If you have to go to a shelter, don't plan on the Ritz-Carlton. They may have cots for you. They may run out of cots. They may have blankets. They may run out of them. They may have food. If they do, it'll come from the jail. The jail just down the county provides food for the shelter if they can get it to you. If they can't, you ought to take what you need with you, especially if you have that baby or a pet. Can you take a pet to an emergency shelter?
Yes.
I heard no and I heard yes.
What changed after Katrina?
The law says we have to have at least one shelter that takes our pets. And by pet, we mean like domestic pet. We don't mean the cow that y'all had. We don't mean a horse. Although there will be places for you to contact if you do have horses. We're talking about dogs, cats, hamsters, gerbils, those kinds of pets. And yes, you can. As a matter of fact, Herb Siefken, if we open up an emergency shelter, Herb is going to be there managing the pet section. You may see some of us there too, managing the pet section. Because if you go there and take your pet, you can't have your pet with you. The pet will be in the building with you and you have access to the pet, but the pet will be separated from the human side. Unless there's one exception. Do you know what it is? Service animal is allowed to go anywhere the human is allowed to go. But yes, we do. Now, not every shelter will accept pets, but the ones I know that we set up. Okay? Take what you need with you, because there may not be enough. Does anybody need a break? Anybody need a break? You awake? Everybody awake? Okay. Yeah. If you are not prepared yourself, you can't help anyone else. Your number one job is to make sure you are prepared for any disaster. So you need a disaster plan. If you don't already have one for yourself and your family, your homework is to go home and make one. Put it together. In your manuals, you have a lot of information that will help you do that. Can I look at your book for 1 second? In front of your book, there's also additional information, glossy stuff that you can use to help you put your personal plan together. But there are some key elements that you need to always have. If you have to leave your house, let's just say there's a fire. You have to get out of the house quick. Where will your family meet? Outside the house. Do you have a place to meet? Anybody have kids or grandkids? No? Well, if you had a kid and you didn't have a plan, and you went outside watching the house burn, and you couldn't find little Johnny, you'd have to assume little Johnny was inside the house. Maybe little Johnny just got smart and went out the back door. We don't know that. So the firefighters are in there looking for little Johnny. Have a place outside your house to meet. For us, it's 2 doors down in front of the house where Molly, the Shih Tzu, lives. And we go to that mailbox and we wait there. Make sense? Have a place to meet. What if you're not home? What if you can't get home? Do you have a place to gather if you can't communicate with people? That's happened here more than you might think. When I wasn't able to get home and I couldn't get through on the phone because the lines were totally swamped, totally swamped. We go to Barnes and Noble. If it's safe to do that. That's our first place to meet. Barnes and Noble in Newtown, because if it's open, there's power and there's coffee and there's books.
And a bathroom.
Pardon?
And a bathroom.
And there's bathrooms, yes. So that's a good place. And even if it's not open, we would meet in the parking lot. Have a place to meet. Out-of-state contact. Who is your out-of-state contact? Does anyone already have an out-of-state contact? Okay, good, excellent. Why would you need one? I mean, my family all lives in Virginia. Most of them live right here in Williamsburg.
Was they're all evacuated.
Hmm?
Suppose they're all in.
That's right, that's right. And in a disaster, you know what happens when it snows in James City County? Everybody picks up the phone and says, "Hey, Mom, it's snowing. Did you know that?" And all of a sudden, you can't make a call because the lines, and if they get crammed when it snows, can you imagine in a disaster? You will not be able to make a call.
You've mentioned twice now not being able to get through on the phone, which is really
Yes.
quite common. If you can't get through on the phone, text. Because
Absolutely.
text uses a different network
Does.
and it will stack and go through, keep trying.
Excellent point. Try texting even
Well,
first.
sometimes, like, especially for New Year's, it's like at 11:59. You can't send a text because everyone's texting Happy New Year. So if everyone's trying to figure out,
Yeah.
it's just still an issue.
Keep trying, but if you can't get through locally on your phone, try texting. But that's where your out-of-state contact comes in. You'd be surprised if you can't get through locally. I don't know what you call it now, but the long distance routes are often open. I can get a call through to Sacramento and I can't get one through to Richmond. No joke. Have an out-of-state contact, and all of you are going to check in with them. You're going to check in, your wife or your husband who is at work in Richmond is going to check in Sacramento. Aunt Molly is going to check in Sacramento. And Aunt Molly, or whoever is in Sacramento, is going to, whenever you check in, okay, they checked in, he checked in, she checked in, they're all fine, and they're going to meet you somewhere. Have an out-of-state contact. Tell them about it. Tell them that you've designated them as your out-of-state contact, so they don't start getting calls. You don't know what to do with them. How many of you actually go to a workplace? If you do you have a plan to escape your workplace? If you have to. We already talked about getting out of this building. But if you are on the 3rd floor of a high rise, do you know how you will get out? And where do you go when you do that? No matter where you are, your place of worship, supermarket, place of work, Make sure you know how to get out. And do you have transportation? Do you know how to get out of your neighborhood if your normal way is closed to you? Or do you live in Riverview Plantation where there's one way in and out? It's a big one. And it's often flooded. They use boats. No joke. They use boats. Make sure you know how to get in and out. And that there's more than one way. Put your plans together. Your plan will include what to do if you have to evacuate or if you have to stay. It will include how to get out of your house if there's a fire. How many of you have more than one story in your house? Okay. Do you sleep on the second floor, anybody? Okay, if you do, and there's a fire, you need to know how to get out. Especially if you have children on the second floor. That would kill me if I had a child on the second floor and I couldn't get to them, to get them out. So everyone needs to know how to evacuate. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday. Okay? Have I given you something to think about? Your homework is to go home and put your plans together. And we'll talk about them more in the next session. So I want to hear what challenges you have as you put them together. JCC alert. Has anyone signed up for JCC alert? Okay, go online to jccalert.org and it will ask you a couple of questions and you will tell it what you would like it to tell you. You will get alerts such as tornado warning, flood warning, chemical spill, tsunami, if you happen to be in an area where there's a tsunami. Anyway, you get to go through the list and pick the ones you want. The one you don't get to choose and is already chosen for you is tornado warning. And you get to tell it how you want to be alerted. In my house, both cell phones, emails, and texts light up when they need to tell me something, because I need to know that right away. But you get to choose. If you only want texts, cool. If you want a landline, cool. You get to tell it what you want. Please do this. It's no charge. You won't get frivolous calls. They will be the life or death calls. They used to have it set so we got warnings every time there was lightning. Oh my goodness. That's not done anymore.
No.
Because yeah, that's lightning.
Just so you know, when you get on the site, there's 148 choices you can make.
Yeah.
So if you want lightning, you can click on lightning. If you want wind, you can click on wind. If you want snow, you can click on snow. But there's a ton of them on there.
But the biggies, I mean, I want to know if there's a tornado warning because I need to take shelter right now. But I don't need to know about lightning strikes. I don't need to know about tsunamis. And I'll know if there's a snowstorm coming. So anyway, that's what you do. If you have any questions about it, let us know. And if you need help, we'll get you help to get you signed up. Make sure all your friends and neighbors know about this too. Now, I don't know if you're not in James City County, I don't think you can do it.
York has something.
York has something, absolutely it does. I just don't know what it is, but I'm sure it does. Okay. We know that Andrew has a baby. Does anyone have small children or a person who needs assistance in mobility in their homes? I do. If you have someone who needs assistance, somebody who uses a walker, let's say, you have to make sure that you consider their needs when you are speaking. If you love them. I mean, if you don't, you have to decide what you want to do there. Homeowners coverage, always a good thing. I'm not going to go into any more information. Likewise, I'm not going to go into this. You can read this in your books. landslides and mudslides we didn't mention, or wildfires. Does anyone live in an area where landslides, mudslides might happen? I don't think we have much of that here. Although there are some places that are built on edges of areas that have been built up, where the soil has been built up, that could possibly collapse. That's one thing we need to consider. You are already getting involved. I don't think I need to do this one anymore. So CERT has been created so that we can respond in the period immediately following a disaster. We also assist professional first responders if they require it, if they request it of us. If you are deployed as a CERT team in your neighborhood and someone from the fire department comes up and says, okay, my name is Kenny Lamb and I am with the fire department. I'm here to find out what you've done with your scene. Tell me what's going on. And by the way, don't leave. You know this scene better than anybody else here. Don't leave. Now, if you have to leave, that's different. But work with them. Let them tell you what they need, because you can be a very great help to them. But your first responsibility is to your family and you, to yourself. Let's say that, I'm going to pick on you again, Andrew. You told me you had a baby. You have a baby at home. What if Andrew is the only person at home with the baby? Who's how old now?
3 months.
3 months. We are alerted to be deployed in his neighborhood. Can he go? Can he put on his gear and go?
You make little tiny hard hats?
Put him in a backpack.
Yeah.
No, Andrew's first responsibility is to himself and his family, to his child. So no, he can't. Could there be things he could do? Maybe from home. He could maybe do some communication from home. But no, he can't go out into a hazardous scene with a child. If you just had surgery, can you go? No, you can't. You have to decide what's best for you. As a CERT volunteer, we don't expect you to put yourself in harm's way. That's exactly what we don't want you to do. Oh, wait. Does anybody need a break? It's been an hour since our last one. No? Shall we just? Okay, good. What we're going to talk about now is something that, to my knowledge, no other CERT program in the nation has. We put our heads together a couple of years ago and we identified something that we think is a glaring issue with a very good CERT program. Let me give you an example. Change of focus here a little bit. Our job is to help others as CERT volunteers. In medical operations, for example, we're going to teach you how to assess a patient. We're going to teach you how to splint a broken or sprained limb. We're going to teach you how to stop or control bleeding, among other things. The lessons in your book and in this course inherently assume that the person you're working with can understand you and communicate with you. How will you interact with someone who may be injured, but who can't hear you? Is that possible? It's very possible. How will you react if the person can hear you but can't see? Either from an injury or because they cannot see. They're blind. How will you react to someone who can hear you but doesn't understand your English? Because they don't speak English. That's what's not in our program. And we said, you know, that's not going to work, is it? Because 10% of our population in the United States cannot hear. Either is officially hard of hearing or is deaf, maybe has been deaf from birth, maybe has a cochlear implant, requires a hearing aid, which they don't have at the moment. They can't hear you. 10% of the population, more than 10% of the population, has a vision disability, which means they can't see evacuation notices. They can't read a map to get them to the evacuation route. And we have a number of people right here in our community for whom English is not a first language. How do we do that? Because we want to help them. Do we just walk up and grab them by the arm and say, hey, you gotta get out of here now? No, we have to have a way to do that that works for us and for them. So we're going to talk about something called access and or functional needs. We say that CERT is an all abilities program, and it is. It means that regardless of your physical ability or your age, there is something you can do to contribute to the CERT, to your CERT team. Our oldest volunteer at this time, at least, is 95. He lives in the Patriots Colony. He took the training 4 years ago, right here. He said, I don't know, I think I might be too old. As he's carrying boxes out into the hallway for us. I don't know, I might be too old. No, he's not. He's an active member in Patriots Colony. Our youngest volunteer took the training at 18. She's now 22. There is a place for everyone in CERT. So what's an access and functional need? I'm going to read it to you. Simply put, people with an access and or a functional need are individuals who need assistance due to any condition, temporary or permanent, that limits their ability to take an action. So if I've had knee replacement surgery 2 days ago, how active do you think I'm going to be getting out of the house in the event of a fire? I'll get out, but boy, it's not going to be very easy for me to do that. That's called, I will have both an access and a functional need at that point, because I can't move very fast. That's a temporary AFN, access functional need. A permanent access or functional need might be, let's say, a war veteran from Afghanistan who lost a limb, or both limbs, both legs, or perhaps lost the sight in his or her eyes and requires a service animal to perform activities of daily life. So that's more of a permanent access or functional need. The term disability is a valid term. Oops. Disability is a valid term. It just means that you need assistance in performing an activity of daily life. I've heard it abbreviated ADLs. Can they do ADLs? What's an activity of daily life? What are they? Brushing your teeth. How about getting to the bathroom to begin with? That's an activity of daily life. What else?
Getting dressed.
Getting dressed. Absolutely. Feeding yourself or cooking food or even just eating the food. Those are your activities of daily life. If you need assistance with those, you probably have an access or functional need. I know you've heard some terms to refer to persons who have particular needs. You might have heard someone called a special needs person, someone with special needs, or specially abled. My favorite, retarded. That person is retarded. There are many words that people have used over time to describe individuals who have access and or functional needs. I want you to forget them all. Forget every single one you ever heard. Disability is a valid term if you use it properly. We want you to focus on people first language. You can never, ever go wrong if you do that. You put the person first. For example, if Paul here comes in his wheelchair and he's part of our CERT team and he's in a wheelchair, I don't say, for example, oh, that person is wheelchair bound. No, this is Paul. Paul is a person. Paul uses a wheelchair to get around. He is a person with a wheelchair. Let's say you have someone who has AIDS. Do we say, oh, I'm gonna pick on you because you're sitting right up here. Paul is an AIDS victim. Oh, please don't use that. Please don't use that. Paul is a person who has AIDS. As long as you concentrate on the individual, you can never go wrong. Can you think of any other examples? That you might need to be careful of? Anybody? Okay, I've lost. Anybody? All right, person who can't see, person who might be deaf. Can't hear you. How about a person who is old? How about the term elderly? How much do we like that term? I'm in my 70s. I went to a bridal shower not long ago, and the bride was through. And I walked in the door, and this young woman came up to me and said, Mrs. Davis, would you like to help me help to your chair? And I went, what? She said, can I help you? Honey, I'm okay. I think I can just stop maybe to the chair over here. But she had been told that I was elderly. All right. Elderly implies frail. There are people who are frail. Just be careful with the words you use. Make sure you treat that person the way you would want to be treated. Watch it with labels. Labels like people with cognitive disabilities. Somebody who perhaps from early childhood has had a developmental issue. They're not retarded, okay? That person is not retarded. This is a person who needs assistance with learning. Make sense? You with me? Okay. So like everything else with CERT, we're going to talk about this in layers. Tonight is your first layer of emergency planning. And it's also your first layer, learning about interacting with people who have access to functional needs. In your CERT bag at the end of the class, you'll have some equipment. You'll have a hard hat, a backpack, and some other things. You'll also have a set of skills that you will need in order to help others as a CERT volunteer. One of the skills I'm going to give you tonight, it's going to help you think outside the box when it comes to interacting with other people, communicating with other people who might not communicate the same way you do. And I will tell you that at a public shelter, about 50% of the people who come in have a special access or functional need. They either have a disability, a cognitive disability, an injury. So people who run shelters have to know all this. All right. I'm going to be giving you something in a few sessions called a communication board, which you will have in your bags to take with you that will help you pictorially communicate with others. But I want you to start tonight thinking outside the box. If I can't communicate with you the way I'm doing right now in English, how will I ever do it? How can I do that? One of the ways you can do it is with some signage. There is a significant portion of our population who is deaf, which is deaf. And this is a good way to start learning to think outside the box. So tonight I'm going to give you a few basic American Sign Language signs. And each session, I'm going to give you a couple more. Do I want you to be an expert in ASL? No. But what I want you to do is start thinking there's other ways to do this. I can communicate, wow, there's a different way. He doesn't understand English, but maybe I can do this instead. So you game for a few signs? All right. Does anybody know ASL, American Sign Language? So these are some basic signs. Now I will be giving you a sheet with these on it after we go over them to begin with, okay? And we put these together, a colleague and I put these signs together, trying to get the very, very basic ones that you probably will remember and that are very versatile. You can use them in a variety of different ways. So the first one I'm going to teach you is yes and no. Okay, here's the sign for yes. Make a fist. It's like you're nodding your head. You can nod your head too, if you want to. It doesn't matter. You can. But this is yes. This is really yes. Emphatically yes, but yes. Okay? Very simple. So along with that, you need to know the word for no. Remember the Aflac duck? Remember Aflac duck? It's 2 fingers and a thumb. That's a no. No. And you can shake your head while you're doing it. And you can frown if you want to. Face is very important. Physical is very important. So it's no. Yes. And no. Shake your head too if you want to. Verbalize it if you want to. It doesn't matter. People around you will hear you too. So yes and no. Okay. Emphatically no. One you might need or see others use is the word for please. You're working with someone who wants help. The sign for please. It's an open hand. It's a circle right in front of your chest. Circle. It's not a fist. That means something else. Please. And you want to arrange your face so that it looks like a please. So that it's not a scowl. It's an open book, please. Okay. So we have yes. No. And we have please. And along with please, you need to know how to say thank you. Here's the formal sign for thank you. And I'll turn so you can see it. It's that's the formal sign. But American Sign Language is directional and positional. So if I want to say thank you just to Paul, I won't sit in front of you. It's or to this group over here because you did such a great job. Thank you. Or thank you all. Okay. Whoa. I just hit me in the eyes. Thank you. But the formal sign is thank you. Sign language works pretty fast. You might just see someone do this. That's like a colloquialism. It's I'm not blowing your kiss.
Thanks.
Thanks. It's thanks. Yeah. Thank y'all. You know, that kind of thing. And the most important one we'll teach you today, you'll need to know, we'll ask you every single time, is a sign for help. Okay? Sign for help. The multi-use sign. Sign for help, non-dominant hand, dominant hand, and it moves. So it's We need to use it somehow. So I might say to Mike, do you need help? And I put my face into a look of questioning. Need help? Do you need help? All right? Do you need help? So ask your neighbor, do you need help? Do you need help? Yes or no? Do you need help?
Yes.
Do you need help? And you can point, pointing is fine.
Jeff,
Do you? Look at it.
I will run
Likewise,
these
you can
sheets
say,
over to you guys
I
tomorrow or
need
Saturday. So you have a
If
sheet.
somebody walks in and I'm a
Even next week, that's fine. I mean, we come.
you
Okay.
can't tell. So I say, please help me. And I'm looking like I need help, right? I'm looking and asking, help me. Please help me. Okay, you get that. It's this. You see this, or you see somebody trying, if they have only one useful hand, you see somebody trying to do this, they're trying to tell you they need help, especially if they're doing this, they really need help. No, you won't help them.
No, I'm practicing. I'm not gonna help.
Okay, so help is directional. And it can be yes or no. Many of the words I'm going to teach you are yeses and nos. It can be, I'm going to, for example, show you the sign for safe. It is safe here. The same sign with a negative is it is not safe here. Okay. So help. You're asking me, do I need help? And I'm like, oh, no. No help. English syntax is not used in American Sign Language. You don't say, I would like to help you. It's help you. There is, it's a language in its own, is what I'm trying to say. Make sense? So next time you're going to show me how to say please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes and no.
Cough.
And no. All right, very good. Okay, you've got the first layer. We're going to build on that next time. It is not imperative that you memorize these. It'd be great if you did. But by the end of our 9-session course, you will learn how to use these and other things to communicate in a non-standard way. Okay? All right, very good. Let me see if there's anything else I need to tell you about that. Oh, we also offer a 4-hour course in access and functional needs. Working persons who have access and functional needs. We go into much greater detail. We talk about service animals and how they are to be treated with their human beings and specific ways you interact with someone who might be blind or deaf and need help. It's really a great course. I wish you would consider taking it. Okay. So Mike is giving you the signs we just went over. And each week you'll get a different one. Each time you'll get a different one. Change of focus again. Back on the regular track in the CERT manual. I am not going to go into, I'm not allowed to subtract anything from the course. I may add things, I may not subtract it. This we will cover the night you do CERT organization. And I'm going to show you our organization in your manuals when we finish this public presentation. So I won't go over that. Talk about personal protective equipment. You know, most classes don't have a clue what PPE is. I bet you do. I bet we all do, don't we? After COVID-19, PPE is a household word. PPE for CERT is a hard hat. You will get one of these from us if you decide to become a CERT volunteer. You'll get a cool CERT hard hat, which you need to wear if you are deployed. Eye protection. They need to be OSHA approved eye protection. You will need those for next Tuesday. There are different kinds of eye protections. There's this kind, and with a strap that goes on. There's this kind. So you will need to get these between now and Tuesday. If they're not available, because there's been a run on them, we have extras of these. They'll look kind of like this for you to use on Tuesday, okay? But you will need to have them in your CERT pack to protect your eyes. Because if you are taking care of someone and they cough, or they throw up, or they are bleeding, the last thing you want is to get that stuff in your eyes. If it's warm and it's wet and it's not yours, you don't want it in your eyes, right? So you'll need to get some of those. N95 masks, good luck. N95 masks are required of CERT volunteers. And there was a time, only a year ago, when we didn't have any trouble getting supplies of N95s. You will have trouble now, probably, unless you already have them. Do we have any to give them? Nope.
Still working on it.
An N95 mask
They're gold.
looks like this. An N95 means that it will filter out 95% of particles greater than 0.3 microns, which is really important. Most things you're going to get infected with are bigger than 0.3 microns. These have valves. For us in CERT, they're more comfortable. The CDC for COVID-19, I think they say don't use the valves, right? So they say for CERT, there will be an end to this pandemic. For CERT, you can use the valves or not, as you wish. You can tell it's an N95 because the straps are not ear straps. They go behind the head and they fit tightly to your face. There's no gap, like a medical mask, there's no gap there. This is a KN95, meaning it was made somewhere else other than the United States. It is my mask of choice when I don't wear a 95, an N95, because it fits absolutely to my face. There's no gap. You can put water in this and it won't come through. I tried soaking it and holding water. It's pretty impermeable. Not the same as an N95, but better than your average medical over-the-ear mask. These are readily available in my KN95s. So for Tuesday, what are we gonna do Tuesday?
Fire safety.
Give them something, no, I mean for masks.
Before you leave tonight, let me take a walk.
Okay, we will have a mask for you if you don't already have them. It may not be an N95, we'll do our best. And when the pandemic is over, as CERT, you will need to keep a supply of that. And we'll make sure that when you put out your fires on Tuesday, that you are protected, one way or the other. Okay, an N95 can also look like this. This adheres to your face with,
I have a lot of those.
and these might be something we could use. These are approved N95s. So they're up here if you want to take a look at them. But this is my choice if I'm not wearing a real N95. It's as good as it gets, unless it's an N95. Gloves. You will need Tuesday some work gloves that don't melt. You need, these happen to be leather. I paid a few bucks for them at Ace Hardware. Get a pair that fits your hand. that you can actually use a fire extinguisher with. There are some gloves that are real big that might protect your hand, but you don't have any dexterity with them. So make sure they fit you whenever you get. Make sure they're not plastic gardening gloves or dishwashing gloves. They won't help you. They will melt on you if you get them too hot. So something like this is what you're looking for. At a hardware store. Those should be readily available. And I generally have several pairs. Because if I get contaminated with blood, these are gone. So you always want some backups. And you will need medical gloves, which we will supply to you. Nitrile gloves, not latex, but nitrile. We will have boxes of them here. And you'll get to pick a size that works for you. And you'll be using them as you do your patient assessments, splinting and bandaging and so forth. We have plenty of these. So you don't need, you will want them eventually yourself for your CERT bag, but for now, use ours. And for Tuesday, you also need a pair of sturdy boots or shoes. Don't go buy boots if you don't have boots. Wear a sturdy pair of shoes. Wear a pair of loafers if you have them. Sneakers may not be the best thing. If you drop that heavy canister fire extinguisher on your foot, you want as much protection as you can get. Okay, makes sense? So don't run out and buy boots if you don't have them already. But if you do, wear them. You will also get a vest from us. A really spiffy vest that says CERT, James City County CERT. This one is new for me. I'm going to put your name on it. I'm going to put Davis in great big letters everywhere on it, just like I have on my hat, so that people from a distance can see who you are and call your name. These are just some pictures of CERTs doing what CERTs do. CERTs also do things that are not related to disasters. Some of the things we've done is go with firefighters to help test and install smoke alarms. If you want to serve the community in that way, and we put out a call asking for volunteers, and you feel like you want to do that, come to, best time to do that is after the fire. When there's a fire in a community, the fire department turns out in a group with some of us volunteers, and we check fire alarms in that community. Good time to do it. And we can help them install them if you so desire. We distribute information. We were part of the Know Your Zone campaign a couple of years ago, where we took notices to different communities, letting them know they were in a potential flood zone. These are volunteer actions. They're not things you must do, but things you could do if you want to help. And of course, you can become an instructor if you so desire. I think at this point, I need to do some paperwork. I need to show you some other things that are in your book. Yeah. In your manual. Find a manual. Part of the manual. Has standard operating guidelines. I'm going to need to. Okay, I'm going to look over your shoulder here. The first part of your book is information you need to do your job if you decide to become a CERT volunteer. And why do I keep saying that? Because you're here to learn about the skills you need to be a part of a CERT team. But you know what? You don't have to. If what you want is the training, that's okay too. You get the training, it'll stay with you for the rest of your life. You can decide to be a James City County CERT volunteer. And if you do, there is a form in that section You'll have a copy in your binder, and this should be next to your book. It's called a memo of understanding, memorandum of understanding. All it is a document that sets out what CERT does relative to the county. Y'all have one? Have y'all found one? Memo of understanding? What I'd like you to do is take it home with you, read it carefully, and decide if this is something you want to do. Basically, this document says, I want to be a James City County CERT volunteer. Now, or you're going to be a York County CERT volunteer.
Yeah, but I can be.
Okay, cool. That's great. It also says, number 2 says, I know that if I am a CERT volunteer, I'm doing things and I may become injured. I may trip on a stone and sprain my ankle. I may do things that might injure me. I know that going into this. If I do, I know that my participation is voluntary. You know, this is the guy. My participation is voluntary. Number 3 says, while acting under the auspices of James City County CERT, I am protected by something called, in the vernacular, the Good Samaritan laws. There are several. And if I act within my training, I am protected by the Good Samaritan laws. Furthermore, if I am injured in the course of my duties, your insurance covers you first, whatever insurance you have. But at some point, if that's exhausted, the county will contribute an additional $25,000 to your care. I will tell you that this is unusual in the United States. Most jurisdictions do not offer anything. You are simply a CERT volunteer. If you're injured, we're really sorry. We'll help you if we can. But basically, they don't do anything monetarily to help you. In addition, if you act according to your training, and for some reason something goes wrong, and someone sues you, the county will defend you. If you act according to your training, not if you go do something strange that you haven't been trained in. The county will support you. Number 4 says, I agree to abide by the protocols, which are in your book. Number 5 says, I agree to have photographs taken of myself in the course of our activities that might be used in the newsletter or on the website. If you do not want that, cross through it and sign it initially. And number 6 finally says, I know that I'm a volunteer and I am not a paid county employee. Okay, take this home, read it. Make sure if you have questions, come back in with your questions and we'll go over it. Now, as a CERT volunteer, we need to do a background check on you. We will do a standard criminal background, sex offender background. The databases that are checked if you are employed by the county or if you are a volunteer with the county. So you have another piece of paper that says disclosure to obtain consumer reports for employment volunteer purposes. I'd like you to take a look at that and read it. And if you decide you want to be a CERT volunteer, I need you to sign the back of it. You'll get a copy of these back. And a background check will be run on you. We never see that. All we get is an answer from the independent organization that is hired to do this. They contact you, you get a website, secure website to sign in, and you'll tell them information that will allow them to do the check. Mike and I never see it. We'll get a yes or no back. And as soon as we get that yes, then we can go ahead and give you your equipment and your ID and so forth. If you have been employed by the county and you've already been checked out, you don't need to do that. They already have your background check done. Let's see. I don't have this one. I'm gonna go through everything here with you. I would like for you to turn, if you would please, to Appendix 1. That is where your permanent copy of the memo of understanding resides. And some frequently asked questions in the background check. Then moving on to Appendix number 2, very important legal documents for you. Copies of the statutes of the Virginia law that protect you if you are assisting someone and act within your training. What does that mean? Oh, thank you. You act within your training. There are 2 immunity from liability laws. One of them refers directly to CERT volunteers. It is the first one. Yeah, section 44-146. Immunity from liability. And we are directly noted at the end of paragraph A. This document says that if you were acting as a CERT volunteer within your training and anything goes wrong, the person you are assisting, you're helping splint a leg, the person has a heart attack and unfortunately dies while you are trying to splint the leg. Is that your fault? No. Can you be sued for it? Yes. Anybody can sue anybody for anything, anytime. You are protected, however. This law has never been successfully challenged in the state of Virginia or in any state other than California. And why it was challenged in California, I don't know. But you must be acting within your training. Let's talk about what that really means. Let's talk about what that really means. Acting within your training. You are going to be taught in this course that we do not perform CPR in the course of our medical operations, because we teach mass casualty medical operations, medical techniques. If I have 50 people who need help and I stay with one person who needs CPR, and I might have saved another 20, 30 people by opening their airways or stopping bleeding, I have not done the greatest good for the greatest number. I've spent all my time with this person. So we don't teach you CPR. If in the course of your CERT days you perform CPR and you decide, gosh, I really shouldn't have started CPR. I really should go on and help these other 20 people. And you leave this person and they expire. That's not within your training. Don't do that. It's not within your training. Another example. You come upon a car and there's a person in the car and they're injured. And you want to render assistance to the driver. There's no smoke, there's no gas leaking, you can't smell anything, there's no fire. The person has run into whatever. The person is clearly injured, but lucid and talking to you. And you say, can I help you? Can I help you get out of there? Because that looks real dangerous. And that person says, no, no. You just leave me right here until first responders can get here. And you say, no, I'm going to help you get out of the car. Right now, we're going to help you get out of the car. And you pull that person out, kicking and screaming, and that person becomes paralyzed. That's not within your training. When a person says no, they mean no. Your training says if they say no, you don't get to do that. Besides which, was there any reason to move the person? No. No, they weren't bleeding out. There was no fire. They could wait till first responders got there. So the difference between in your training and not in your training is really clear. What you learn in this book is what you get to do. Make sense? You with me? Okay. That's what it means in the Good Samaritan law. That if you act within your training in good faith and not negligent or malicious, you're covered. You really are covered. We have what Virginia calls sovereign immunity, which in Old English meant you had the immunity of the sovereign. It meant that the sovereign couldn't be held accountable for anything. And basically, that's what the attorneys in Virginia call it. And the second law is similar, but it does not call CERT out individually. It just applies to everybody, all of us, everybody. If you come upon a person who needs assistance and you render said assistance and you do so in good faith, not negligent or malicious, you're covered. Take some time, read through these. If you have questions, bring them back in, okay? And they're called, the vernacular is Good Samaritan laws. Every state has them. There are a few words difference, but they're basically the same. So, there is a section of standard operating guidelines. Yep, okay, standard operating guidelines, SOGs, it's right in front of your manual. SOGs. The SOGs, again, I want you to take it home and read it. It lists a whole lot of good information for you. Talks about the CERT program, gives you an organization chart, tells you where we fit in the county organization. There's the county administrator, the board of supervisors. Under that is the fire chief, right up under that. They consider us to be an important organization. And we've listed the CERT teams there for you as well. And as we go on through the SOGs, you will see on page 8 of the standard operating guidelines a list of rules and policies. The first of which is critical. JCC CERT trained individuals and teams are established by and responsible to James City County. You are not responsible to a neighborhood, although you work in your neighborhood. You might be asked to do things in your neighborhood. You report to Michael Powers, who reports to the emergency manager, Sarah Lou, who reports to the fire chief. We're the ones, he's the one who's going to contact you and say, we need you to deploy. We've major tornado damage in this part of the county. Can your team deploy? Something like that. And it's to the county that you're responsible. So when somebody rolls up to the scene and you are acting as your CERT team and they say, who are you and what right do you have to do this? Well, I do, because I've been activated by the county by emergency management. I have my hat, my ID, and my vest. I am authorized to do this. Take some time to read down through these. Some are pretty obvious. Some we just need to make sure you do understand, like number 22. We talked about personal defense. Number 22 is a nationwide directive. CERT volunteers do not carry firearms in the course of their CERT duties. We don't care if you have an arsenal at home. When you are a CERT volunteer, we do not carry firearms. Okay? And they have no sense of humor about that. We don't carry firearms. It doesn't mean you can't have them. It just means you can't carry them in the course of your CERT duties. Now, when we start talking about, if you take the course called Animals in Disaster Response, you will learn that there are times when you may need to protect yourself against let's say, a rabid animal. That's a different situation. It doesn't call for a firearm, but we'll talk to you about what that is as well. I think that's all I need to cover. We are going to refer you to this section, to various parts of this SOGs as we go through the following sessions. So for now, what we'd like you to do, I have a film I want to show you, but for now, what we'd like you to do is go home, read through this. Light reading for the weekend, right? Take a look at the material, see what kind of questions come up. If you have a question, chances are everybody else has the same question. So come in and we'll talk about this Tuesday. Okay? There's a lot to digest here. We don't want you to have to sit here and make decisions right now. If you do decide that you don't want to be a CERT volunteer, that's okay. Take the training. You'll enjoy it. You'll use it. But we hope you will join us. We have almost 600 volunteers just in the county alone. Every one of those volunteers is a family and a neighborhood that's that much better off than they were before. Please consider it. I think we've covered everything there that we need to cover. I would like to give you a look at what CERT volunteers do. Would you like to see it? We're going to get you out a little bit early tonight. This is a film that was made for CERT. Some of the people in the film are actors. Some are just people like you and me. And they are going to demonstrate what CERTs do after an event, probably a wind event in California. What some of the things they do are not exactly what we will do, but it gives you a good feel for what a team can do and how they operate. Andrew, could you hit the lights for me, please?
Both these here?
Yeah. We've covered all this.
Communities are susceptible to many types of disasters. Some, such as floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, and hurricanes. Most emergencies are man-made. Some parts of the country will experience disasters that others will never see, like mudslides, winter storms, and volcanoes, while others, like flooding or windstorms, can strike most anywhere. When disaster strikes, emergency services personnel will respond immediately. We count on their training and equipment to handle these situations. However, depending on the impact, emergency responders may not be able to quickly get to everyone who needs help. That's where community and emergency response teams come in. CERTs are trained to search for and rescue people who might be trapped, to provide basic medical assistance, to put out small fires, and to handle other small incidents before more injuries or damage occur. By using the skills and knowledge they learned in training, CERT members in a neighborhood, workplace, school, or other location can work as a team to help themselves and others until professional help arrives. That's what CERT is all about, making a difference when it is needed the most. We call it doing the greatest good for the greatest number.
Okay. Wow. That was a storm, huh?
Yeah, scary too.
Yeah, sure was. I need to check the words.
Yeah. Nothing.
What are we doing?
I know, honey, it's gonna be all right.
Okay.
It's a die down. I'm gonna check the house out, make sure everything's okay. Then I'm gonna do some stuff. You guys know where your goat kits are? All right. We're gonna get those. We're gonna meet out front, okay? Hey, sweetie. A lot of shingles are down, a lot of big tree limbs. But other than that, I think we were lucky. House looks okay, it's safe. Obviously, the power's out, and I checked the phones, the dial's out too, so wires are down somewhere. Sir?
Yeah, got it, Sam. Got 3 bars. I'll call my sister. Why are you calling me Kathy? Because she's our out-of-state contact. So anytime anything happens here, we call her to let her know we're okay. And anytime anything happens there, she calls us. Okay, makes sense.
Well, the house is safe, so we can go back in, okay? I'm gonna get my shirt gear, meet the rest of the team. Hey, listen, I don't know where those wires are down. I want you guys to stay inside. Don't let me get hurt.
Hey, Joe.
Okay, Bart,
All right, good. How's everybody airplane?
we're all right. Taking up a little bit. It's a mess,
Yeah.
but we're okay. We're lucky. You okay?
Yeah, we're all right, but I noticed coming over, Peterson's at 1422 and Parchman's at 1424. Their places got hit by a falling tree. Peterson's roof was damaged and the Parchman's deck is just totally crushed.
Everybody okay? Everybody out of there?
Yeah, Rita's pretty shook up, but she's not hurt.
I bet we'll find more. Let's go over to the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it looks pretty good, all the postings, Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, good. I'm doing great. What do you guys?
Parking was fun, I don't know about that.
Yeah. How about you?
Oh, I lost some shingles. Trying to get a part of it. You know what, over here, there's a gas station on Wallace, roof of the gas pumps, going down on the road. All three were twisted up, pretty bad. Not really sure. The manager, the truck goes out around the, on long trip, so.
Sorry I'm late. I passed a minor car crash down the street.
Anybody hurt there?
Drivers and passengers and find no pedestrians involved. So who's in charge here? You got your first.
Joe and I got here first. Joe, you had a lot more service experience than I have. I just finished training. Why don't you take the lead?
Wow.
I'm just donning the leadership strategy here. So my suggestion is we keep this as the command post. It's structurally sound. There's a roof in case the rains come back. It's centrally located in the neighborhood. I was just getting to talk about what everybody's seen. So Mary Lou saw a car crash.
Right, a car and a pickup truck actually at Ford and Berkeley. Just bumps and bruises, really. Everybody's okay. They're not blocking traffic. When I left, they were exchanging information, see if they found.
Okay. And what else, Bob? You saw the twisted roof of the gas station.
Yeah, that's at Walton 13. Seems to be all under control, and traffic can't get around the roof.
Okay. Anything else?
Not for me.
We had that leaking propane grill that we saw, and there was a down power line.
Right.
And we ought to really go back and check Parchman's gas lines.
So
Here's the details.
Okay, thank you.
Did you see the damage down at the community center? A tree fell on it. Looks like some limbs with the roof and a big wing
window. There are people there day and evening, so I wouldn't be surprised if there are.
I think the priority has to be the community center. Vivian, you took Bob and Mary Lou down there, you'll be in charge. All right, I think you're right about the gas lines at 1424 Windsor too. Barb, you and Wayne head over there on the way to the community center, all right? Wayne, you take the lead there.
All right.
Viv, can you have information back in 20 minutes?
Absolutely.
Don't forget, write down everything you do and everything you see. So we get a good status report to the professional. Thanks, everybody.
Wow, good pass. All right, let's take a look at the exterior first. Mary Lou, Bob, I want you to go to the right. Wayne, Barbara, I want you to the left. I'll stay here. Let me know what you see and stick with your buddies and meet back here in 5 minutes. Is everything clear?
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Great, great.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh-oh, there's some smoke in here. Okay, all right. What y'all see? It is a mess back there. You saw that big tree? It's up against the building, and there's a big broken window. You hear people inside that call for help, but I couldn't play on that. Okay, all right, thanks. What about y'all?
Free also, but through a window back there, we saw a lot of smoke.
Okay, sounds like we're gonna need to go in. I want you to stay in your pair, and I want you to use all caution. Use the right hand search pattern. I want you all to use a left hand search pattern. I'll stay up here and set up a triage area and just track what everybody's doing. Everybody up here that way? All right.
Hi, I'm Walter. This is Becky. Are you over here? Can we help?
Yeah, my name is Vivian, and I'm from this neighborhood's community emergency response team. We've been trained by the fire department to help out when, the professionals haven't arrived yet. Either one of you have any medical experience?
Sure, I worked at the EMT in college.
Okay, what about you?
Putting Band-Aids on my 3-year-old grandson, that's about it.
Okay, we can use all the help we can get. Do you live nearby?
Right over here.
Okay, do you have any blankets you can spare?
Sure do.
All right, why don't you run home and grab them, and then just come on back here and you can help with the minor injury.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Okay, Becky, so we're gonna go ahead and set up a triage area. We're gonna put minor injuries here. The more serious ones, we're gonna put here. The ones that need immediate attention, we're gonna put right here so that the EMS has immediate access to them. Do you have any questions? No questions, I got it. Okay, thanks.
Right over here.
Ferdinand, I'm gonna put the wire on the
You got the wire.
It was strong hit.
Are you in charge?
Yes, hi, Howard.
I'm in a lot of pain. I think I hurt my arm and shoulder. Can you help me?
Yes, I can. My name is Vivian. I'm part of the community emergency response team, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to be safe on you, just identifies your injuries and the severity. Sure. All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, Becky, why don't you come on over here and help me? She's hurt her arm. Why don't you take her over to the leg section and check her out?
I know you wanted to form the
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You know, knock it over. That's the early. We're getting some rust on now. All right. What's up with fusion? Sure. You take my hand, sir. Man, he's an idiot. All right, I'm here. We'll be there in a moment. You know what happened? All right. So what's your name? We're making a delay, right? All right, we have to do this, sir.
Yeah, I'm just scratched and bruised and shook up. Okay, take care of him. Yeah.
All right, now.
Okay.
Injuries? Your head? Oh, your head was pretty bad. And that looks like a trap in there. If you're bleeding on the lower leg, they're making them need it. He's not here.
Just in time. Listen, we have two people here that we need to move out immediately. This man, we're gonna need a blanket or a stretcher, if you can go out there and find something, and then we'll take this boy out on that chair. And why not, we please report to Vivian how many injuries we have. This man is delayed, and then this woman just has minor injuries. In fact, if you could take these two folks out with you, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Put this right here on the shoulder, and I'll give you some more. First. Yeah.
But yeah, you're a minor. Let's go ahead and set her up here, get some roller on the ground.
Here has the left arm injury delayed.
Okay, I want you to set him up right over here, and you're gonna grab this wall. We've got two more mediums inside of your blanket. Okay, watch, go ahead and take Wayne back in there, go and flush. All right, thank you.
Right, go back to the blanket. Why don't you take control of the head?
Folks, just get the blanket down. You would get his arms. You get the blanket. On 1, 2, 3.
Look for their knees on the back.
Okay, I'm gonna count. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Right on the ground. Leg comes by. Everybody got a grip? Okay, everybody lift. On 1, 2, 3. Take it off feet first.
Yeah.
All right. Right over here. Come on down. 1, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Great. All right. Yeah, left side.
Here we go. One more inside while we're recording. Or back to go.
We came across him, he was unresponsive, we adjusted his airway, started breathing a lot better. Had obscure head wounds, but he's going into shock, we believe, the perfusion was kind of weak.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and do an assessment myself. Okay, I'm going to check you, see some further injuries. Just checking to see if we need more else.
Nice job. All right. Let's put those hands in your lap. Then we're gonna tilt you back. Are you ready for lean? All right, looking back. 1, 2, 3. Lift up 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. And right here. And 1, 2, 3. Down. 2, 3, forward. Okay. Well, we're gonna push in this blanket right over here on your left. Ready for that? All right, Barbara, I'm gonna grab you. Ready to get a good grip on you? Looks like we're ready to go. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
What do we have here, Wayne?
We'll here, we can get him out here immediately, and he's got a head injury, he's a little bit of glass instead right there, and he's got a left leg injury.
Okay, thanks.
Building's clear, and we're gonna go ahead and start helping these guys, work on these guys right here.
Well, let's check you out here. I'm gonna put my hands on your head and just checking for other injuries. We need to deliver them, of course, the command post. What do you have for me?
Okay, we went through the entire community center. Bob and I found one room with heavy damage to the ceiling. Didn't even look safe to go in there. And there's one room that's locked. We tried it, we called, we didn't get any answer, but we were not able to contact.
What do you have?
Barbara and I went to 1424 Windsor, bad storm damage, we shut the gas off, here's my documentation.
Watch your head and get to Mary. Here's the report for the 8 triage victims, and this is a current report. Why don't you go ahead and hit up there, and then just come on back when you finish your report.
Alrighty, I will. Is there anything we need?
Nope, that's it. I'll see you guys this weekend. Wayne, why don't you go ahead and mark the building as searched, and we'll go ahead and continue to send to the victims.
We'll do,
All right.
mark it right here.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for checking it. Okay. Well, that's good there.
We have one room with heavy damage to the ceiling. We can't even enter there. And we do have one room that's locked to get inside. 8 victims in our triage area, 2 immediates, and then 3 delayed and 3 minor.
All right.
Barbara and Wayne turned up the gas at one house. I got the addresses for the 2 places they checked, some information for 50. Okay, and I'm gonna just, I'm gonna have to sit back down here.
Survey here, give you the good incidental advantage around the community, but we've been really focused on the community center. We've searched it all except for 2 rooms that are accessible to us. One is ceiling damage, and the other was locked. We can't get in. We've got 8 victims in triage. 2 immediates have already called in. We've also got 3 related to 3 lines. I'll take care of it now.
Are there any patients in the infection room?
We don't know.
Okay.
But you guys are here.
Community emergency response team members are trained to help themselves and others after a disaster. Until professional help arrives.
Andrew, will you get the lights for me, please? Not everything that was done in this film is done the way we can do it here, but what did you think? What reaction? do you have? Any surprises?
Did they get, actually, I have more of a question. than a- Did they get mobilized when this all storm went on? Or is that part of their protocol that when something like that's happened, they then self-mobilize?
Good question, excellent questions. Yes to both. Depending on the event, we may call you and say, you know, there's this major hurricane on its way. All the team leaders are going to meet at the community center, and we're going to talk about what all your teams are going to be doing. Be ready. Okay, so we started that way. If it's an event that's no notice and communication lines are down, you may self-deploy under the right conditions. And we're going to go through all that with you. But yes, you may self-deploy if you meet the right conditions. It's a major disaster and you need to get out there, and it's safe for you to do that. That's important. Other questions, comments, anything surprise you about it? Too much? You're doing too much?
Well, my only question is, they went inside, and I don't know if any of them are structural engineers. But that's kind of an iffy call to go inside when you don't know the stability of the building.
Yes. So she sent some teams to assess the outside of the building and report back to her. They must have given her information that let her believe it was safe to go in. But you are absolutely right about that. One of the things we'll cover when we do light search and rescue is how you assess that building and whether you determine it's safe for you to go in or not. And if you determine it's not safe, you don't go in.
So I have a question from remote. So I don't know, so I don't know if it was the age of the film, but it seemed like they were, and maybe it was a little hard for us to tell from the scenario, but it seemed like they were moving a lot of people who could possibly have neck injuries and things like that, and they were just carting them out right and left. And I just had some concerns about that.
So do we. Good call, good catch too. What did y'all think about that? They moved this young man in a chair. He was sitting up against the wall and he had a head injury, an obvious head injury.
Not too good to do that, I would think.
I believe that if it had been Mike and his team, he would have first put the young man on the floor and probably stabilized him on a blanket and had people carry him out stabilized so that his head didn't move. You are, I don't know who the name of this person is. She's absolutely
Diane.
right.
Diane's
Diane,
right.
you're absolutely right. There are many things that they did in the film that we probably would do differently. That is one of them. The other thing is that same young man, somebody walked up to him and said, "Yeah, that looks pretty bad, doesn't it?" Well, that might not be the way you want to interact with your patients. Maybe not. Anyway, so yes, good call, Diane. And something we will be covering a little more later. This is supposed to be a demonstration. And unfortunately, it turned out to be a demonstration of some things we might not do as well as some things we might do. What else? Anything else?
Other certs use color bandages instead of tape, and to me it takes more longer.
We do.
We do.
versus
They
the
might
color.
not have had them. I'll be generous and say they might not have had them, but yes, our protocol is to use colors. We have, and we don't use the terms to the patients. We don't use the terms delayed and immediate. Hey, you're delayed. Yeah, oh yeah, it's a broken arm. She's delayed. No, probably not. The color is yellow for delayed. Red is immediate. Everyone will know what that means because you're all trained, and the county's trained the same way. So when the fire department shows up, I've got 4 reds, 1 really critical, 3 yellows, 2 greens, no disease. They know exactly her.
And that, to go along with that, we'll be using predetermined tags in Wayne County.
Yeah, we have a protocol that covers that. Good call, good catch.
And they took volunteers basically off the street to help, which I don't think would be known.
No,
Unless
actually,
it's
we
a-
don't.
You know, it's a registered nurse or doctor or something.
Right.
maybe.
Well, and even then,
Yeah.
we have a protocol that covers that too, because we don't know who these people are.
Right.
There might be some things they can do, but I wouldn't put patients in their charge. Depends on how bad the disaster is, I guess, but I wouldn't put patients in their charge. Well done. Anything else? We're going to show you this again toward the end, and I think you'll see more things that you think we might have learned to do a little bit differently. We will follow the county protocols so that when the fire department arrives, they know exactly what we're talking about. Okay. Anything else? And bear in mind too, the thing that was missing in this film, what was missing? How about a sense of panic? Sense of urgency. It's a film. Okay, it's a demo. So you're not going to get the adrenaline that you will get if you are really truly deployed after a catastrophic event, because it's a movie. But still, some interesting things that they did. I've got just one more thing to go over, I think. Okay. Additional training. We hope that you will enjoy this course so much that you will take some additional training with us. We do a course on CERT when animals are involved, because most certainly they will be. Anytime there is a disaster, it's not just humans who are affected and displaced. There are animals too. We don't expect you to rescue them, but you may have to deal with them as you do your job. Mike teaches CPR and AED skills. Now, I just said that we don't do CPR, right? We still think you should know it. We think you should have the skill. Everyone should have the skill. How to do CPR and how to use an automatic external defibrillator. When you wander around the building, see if you can find the AED that's in this building, because you might need it someday. So we do teach it. You don't get to use it in a mass casualty situation, but we really hope that you will use it. And we have our own excellent trainer right here. First aid, we teach you mass casualty first aid. There's more that you can learn if you wish. We have a course in emergency communications. You'll see many of us with ham radios. We encourage you to use those as much as possible and to take the training and get your license. We also teach point of distribution. Getting vaccines out to people is kind of form of point of distribution. When we would do it, we might do it for supplies, for blankets, for water. We might get called on to do that, and we would set up a station where we can do that and people can come and collect supplies, probably in the neighborhoods. And of course, we offer off the grid, which is an excellent course, and access and functional needs, which I think really everybody should take. And
Skyward.
oh, Skywarn. Skywarn is a course put on by NOAA, by the Weather Service, by NOAA. And they teach you how to observe weather events, how to learn what you see and report what you see to the Weather Service. You can become a spotter, if you will. For me, it's important because I can recognize cloud formations now, and I know when to go the other way. It's really an interesting course. And I don't know if they're teaching it now because of COVID or not.
I haven't seen one in a
I
while.
haven't seen a notice that they're teaching it. There will be a time after COVID when we will get to do these things. So we hope that you will also take Skywarn. If you see, let's see, hail is coming down in your backyard. They want to know that because you know what? Hail doesn't register on the radar. Can't register on the radar. They want to know if you're, and they tell you how to report it, the sizes and so forth, so that you can call them and say, my number is AKG 12345, and I'm reporting quarter-sized hail or whatever they told us to use. They changed the designations. It used to be pea-sized and golf ball-sized. Now it's something else. And they know who you are and that you've been trained, so you have a valid data set to give them. Okay? So this is what we have talked about today. Do you have any questions for me before I turn this back to you? Will you come back Tuesday? Good, good, okay. Excellent.
Tuesday should be fun.
Tuesday will be fun. Yes, ma'am.
So the things that we need for Tuesday are the goggles or glasses, the gloves, sturdy shoes. And I think it mentioned about a blanket. We need a blanket?
You won't need a blanket Tuesday. At some point, you will need a blanket. I think when we do medical ops and search and rescue, you will need a good sturdy blanket. But not for Tuesday.
Okay.
What else? Everybody set for Tuesday? You know what? So review section 1 in your manuals. Read ahead through section 2. You need some light reading for the weekend. I know you do. Read ahead through section 2 so you get a jump on it. And some of that paperwork that we talked about today. Mike?
Yeah. Just a couple of house cleaning things that I need to go over. Obviously, I'll provide water for the class, so I'll make sure I have my cooler here with still water. They don't allow us, and we don't have the budget for snacks. So if you would like to bring a snack to share, feel free to do so. Homemade cookies, prepackaged snacks, whatever. If you'd like to bring them, that's fine. Chocolate. We can put them in the kitchen, and we can share something amongst ourselves. So at first it was, we could only bring prepackaged, pre-wrapped, but I'm not against bringing something homemade. Maybe my wife will make some cookies too. Yes.
We should maybe set ground rules in case somebody has an allergy.
Does anyone have an allergy? Peanuts?
Gluten issue or anything?
Okay.
I mean, I just kind of, I was picturing Reese's cups and then someone having a peanut allergy or something.
Oh, Reese's cups.
Yeah, no.
All right. Other than that, thank you, Judith. Great job as usual. Judith will be here next week. She's going to go over part 2 with your sign language skills. I'm going to probably be the primary instructor next week. We're still waiting to hear from the fire marshal whether he's going to be able to make it next week or not. If he doesn't, then we'll be in capable hands. Does anybody have any questions at all? Yes.
Can you tell us specifically what kind of goggles we're supposed to get? Like what is a good safety goggle? so we don't bring the wrong thing.
Right. Judith has two pair up here
Yeah.
that are accepted for use with CERT program. One is a safety glass.
So they have to stick to your face like that?
This
There they are.
time, no, as long as they're OSHA approved. And make sure it says OSHA approved on the package. This is, and this has a wing on either side, so these are pretty decent because they'll cover most of my eyes, which I like. This one really will cover most of my eyes, but it will fog. So you have to do something to, it's like a diving mask, you know, they're really good, but you have to make sure that they don't fall. And if you need your regular glasses underneath, you can get these
get
deep
those.
enough that they will go over.
Your regular eyeglasses, like I have to do. If you can't, I have some extra goggles, both styles at the office. I will bring them with me next week.
It's just, we have a whole bunch of these at the house, and they kind of wrap, but they don't have wings.
Oh, well, that's, is it, it's OSHA approved,
Oh,
but I see words on the side.
Yeah, I'll look at it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's no problem, as long as we're
And I like them
protecting.
because they let me read too.
Okay.
Because I'm 23, when you get to 23, your eyes start to go.
Oh,
Yeah. We get it. If there's no other questions or concerns, we'll see everybody Tuesday. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. And with that, we'll end the class and have a safe trip home. Thanks again for coming. Thanks for.